set everything up every single time,
Oh,
so it's
that's
remembering.
nice. That's
Oh my
very
god, it's
nice.
like The Thing. It's remembering.
Pertinence. Pertinence,
Yes.
right? Oh,
Oh,
wow. My God. I mean, oh, Jesus, I love this film to bits.
it was so
It's
good.
so freaking good, isn't it? I mean, like, just on a purely, it's the levels you can watch it on. I think it's amazing. Like, if you just want popcorn horror,
Oh
it's
yeah.
great. It's great. It's just a really good film. It's so punchy. It's so
It,
punchy.
it just comes back to my usual complaint, which is, oh, why can't more films be between 90 minutes
I know,
and
right?
2 hours? And this is, I think, a sweet spot. I think it's about 1 hour
But it
45,
does
something
so
like that.
much with it. It does
I
so
know.
much with it. I mean, like, we talked on Alien about how that establishes characters so beautifully. This is the same, but to the power of n.
I've
Like,
got a real leaning towards anyone in any media, any kind of artist or writer, I think, who can do the maximum amount and the minimum
yeah.
of
Oh, it's
whether it's
impressive.
getting a film under 2 hours, getting your sprawling novel. I mean, not always. Of course, there's always exceptions. Sometimes
Yeah,
you do have to be
absolutely. Don't get me
immersed.
wrong. I mean, I really appreciate this as an art form. I think it's very impressive. But the alternative is true too. I mean, I've got a bit of a soft spot for those big, almost like Tolkien-esque novels that are
Yeah, agreed.
just fluff.
But I just think
They're just vibes.
they should be rarer.
Mm.
I think that just not so much justifies it. And then when those things come along, whether it is,
Hmm.
as you say, whether it's a Tolkien or it's a film by Tarkovsky, or
Yeah.
it's someone who makes epic double albums or whatever it might be, great. But I think for the most part, the discipline of working to say, if you're a novelist, 90,000
Mm.
words. If you're a filmmaker, try not to go over 2 hours,
Yes.
or whatever it might be. There's a great deal of potential in that.
There
But the
really
limitations
is.
become actually expansive in other ways. Expansive on the content. It's
That's
rather
right.
like,
Yeah, it's got to do much more, hasn't it? It's just the
yeah,
stuff that you actually have has to work that much harder. So everything is freighted. Everything has meaning and significance.
exactly.
Oh my God, I love it so much. It's so impressive. And it's just so, on a visceral level, it's just so goddamn watchable.
I know, and it is astonishing to, because I just delved back in
Did
to.
you watch this one? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, we
Yeah.
watched it last
Okay.
night.
So you're
We
okay with
watched it last
this
night.
one? This
Oh
one's
yeah.
the
Well,
body
this
horror
is
in
the
this one is
crazy thing.
okay. Yeah.
This is the crazy thing. This because in many ways, while I was watching it with Vic, I said it's so funny. I said because actually, there's a certain overlap with The Fly, not just in
So
terms of its
much.
content and its themes and so on, but it uses a film stock which I assume is a 35 mil, but
Hmm.
there's the film stock of that era and the way it was treated and the way it was lit. And I'm sort of talking very late 70s, early 80s,
Yeah.
which has a strange kind of dryness to it. The
Hmm.
Fly has it as well. It has, and The Thing has it.
Yeah.
And that film stock is oddly unsettling. And the way it's lit is not all that different to The Fly, and the claustrophobia and
Claustrophobia.
obviously the
Yeah.
creature effects.
Yeah.
I said it comes back to I think that my takeaway from when we did The Fly, which is the horror, the visceral horror seems more profound because the
Hmm.
story is so sad, whereas
Yes.
this is thrilling. The
Yeah.
Fly is like watching a very bleak play, and
Hmm.
the Thing is watching it's something that is not entirely an action film, but has
Hmm.
these moments where it's an action film.
Yeah, absolutely. It's less personal, isn't it? The horror of it, the visceral nature is less personal, and there's an
you're more.
exuberance here too. I mean,
Yes,
I
yeah,
think what it is, it's the way it's marketed, it's the way it's framed. I mean, it is framed. I mean, it's very Lovecraftian in that regard. You know how there's this
very,
thing in
very
Lovecraft
much
where
so.
like he's trying so hard to get you to feel. He's telling you to feel horror and disgust and revulsion, but it's hard to because he loves the subject matter so much, and it comes through in the text, it comes through in his descriptions.
And there's
The
a
same thing is happening here. It's like, it is horrific. I mean, like, it's, oh my God, is it horrific and disturbing and really unsettling, but it's so exuberant. I mean,
but it's also a bit remote as well, because of course, none of us have first-hand experience of what is ostensibly meant to be, wherever they are,
whatever this thing is,
the Arctic or whatever. There is the fact that very, very few of us have been in situations where we've been in remote research stations on the other side of the world. But the thing about The Fly is it's where it touches down on the domestic.
That's right. It's like domestic horror, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, who work, who fall in love, who live in a city, who have anxieties about whether or not to have the baby, and one of them gets a terrible disease.
Yeah,
so it just feels much more, it cuts. Whereas this, I can watch no matter how. This, I find the creature effects thrilling and exciting, because it feels very removed. It's like, well, this is not something I can appreciate ever firsthand. So
I suppose that's the difference.
The Fly, in a way, also not.
Yeah,
but you can experience the
Hey, Jack, you're okay, man.
Oh, hi, Jack. We might all, or some of us, have had experience with someone getting very ill through disease, and then succumbing, and The Fly stirs that up.
Recording in progress.
Thank you, Mother.
Yeah, there she is again.
She's back again. I noticed that Blair was accessing Mother at one point in the film, or was it Brundle Fly's computer?
Yeah,
it's exactly the same again. It's incredibly advanced computer.
It really is. There's overlap there, isn't there? There's a lot of computer imagery in this, actually. I like that establishing.
Computers all
moment.
do that stuff in 80s cinema.
Of course they're
all. You're able to have conversations with computers in 80s cinema.
Well, they're magic, aren't they? At this point, computers are still magic. People generally really don't know how they work, because computers are the purview of specialists and scientists and technicians, right? But by and large, home computing is in its infancy. What is it, 1986 is this? So we're talking 82? No way.
Yeah,
that's right. So we're talking not even like Commodore Amiga. We're talking Sinclair Spectrum at this point for home computing, and that's as far as it goes. Yeah, Commodore 64 era. Yeah,
I had a thing called a VIC-20, which was even less sophisticated than the Commodore 64.
I've never seen one.
It looks like the Commodore 64 as built by chimps.
Well, that's funny, because I thought the Commodore 64 was the Commodore 64 built by chimps.
No, that was built by orangutan. That was
oh, right, okay. I got the wrong
less
primate.
reliable, even less reliable than the C64. Wow, bloody hell!
But talking about chimps and so on. The first thing I thought of when we cranked this up last night, and the ship hoves into view at the very beginning, and I thought,
that's
firstly,
homage to the original film, isn't it?
Yeah, and also Predator nick it later.
Yes,
they do exactly the same shot. Yeah. But I looked at this ship coming towards the screen, and then the pan. There's Earth, and I went, I bet that ship is the inside of that ship is full of occult symbols. My first thought.
Yes, interesting.
A crashed ship on board and on board is something that fundamentally changes our human condition. That thing's covered in pentacles.
Right, yeah. I mean, and we know Carpenter is a Neil fan, right?
Yeah.
We know
but it's there, all the way through this season that we've been doing, Pit, Fly, Alien, all the anxieties, even the plot points and the imagery, they're all crossing over, they're all relevant to one another,
Very much.
Really
there's something in the air, isn't there? In fact, there are so many anxieties colliding in the 1980s, it seems, and through stretching back into the long 70s, that are being expressed through science fiction horror and collated by them in a weird kind of way. Because this one in particular, I think The Fly is very much so, and Alien, but this one, I think it's all here. I think everything those films express is collected here and expressed in this really elegant little package.
Well, it's something Jack said on the WhatsApp that, and he was saying, again, referring to previous episodes that we've done, that this utterly makes sense when we sort of dwell on, the fears and horrors that just living with capitalism and its attendant horrors brings, how that's bound obviously was bound to be a pretty rich sandbox for the writers of fantasy and SF and horror in this point, because you get this whole thing about, you know, the abusable and the morphable and the adaptable human body as ideas invaded, whether that's colonialism with the Martians. I mean, that's slightly earlier, but as you say, these guys were very inspired by Neil, or the absorption and the standardization offered by the alien or the thing, or, you know, taking a form that might be better suited to Reaganite survival, i.e. Brundlefly.
So or this creature,
it's all
right?
coming of age. You know,
everything. What everything the thing does, well, I mean, its nature isn't necessarily explored to any great degree, only its effects are. But everything it does is functional. It's Darwinian, right? It only reacts when it comes to brute survivalism.
Yeah.
So it is, by its very nature, it's an expression of those ideologies, which are themselves a kind of twisted, perverted expression of a misapprehension of the same ideology. It's
kind of the ultimate, you know, Darwinian survivor, isn't it?
Yeah.
And again, you know, and Darwin and Russell sort of simultaneously or near simultaneously come up with the idea of evolution by natural selection.
Yes.
It's not a coincidence that two men of the same society and the same class come by the idea at roughly the same time.
Not at all.
It's because suddenly they're living in a historical epoch and a type of society that enables them to see certain things about the natural world. And what you have in modern, you know, Victorian modern industrial capitalism is the idea of sort of life as this gigantic marketplace of competitors and, you know, fighting over scarce resources, you know, and what, you know, Marx goes one way, adapting and refuting Malthus. Darwin goes another way from Malthus and adapts this idea of, you know, he talks about the field, the garden, as kind of this great competitive market. And so this has kind of been baked in.
Yeah.
This connection between Darwinism, Darwinian evolution, competition, and the idea of market actors fighting each other. This has been in science fiction right the way through. Particularly, and talking about sci-fi horror, we have these themes that keep coming back. I think it's just in science fiction right from the start. I mean, the foundational work of science fiction literature, Frankenstein, is also a foundational work of horror, of Gothic horror.
Yes.
They start out as the same genre, essentially.
That's right, yes, because, I mean, it's a thing, isn't it? Where does it start and stop in Frankenstein? How do you define where science fiction starts and horror ends? Yeah, it's impossible.
And that book is about many things, but one of the things it's about, of course, is the new industrial capitalist society that Shelley is looking at, and she creates a story that's about you know, the product that gets out of our control, and of course one of the products that the monster stands for is kind of the proletariat itself.
Yes.
It is made by capitalism in the same way that it makes things for capitalism. So right the way back at the start of science fiction and horror, they're melded together. They are essentially the same genre, and they're talking about exactly this. They're talking about industrial capitalism, and they're talking about evolution and the nature of life, and also the nature of the body in terms of surgical mutilation and surgical invasion, what is or is not a human being. It's right there in embryo, pardon me, right from the start.
And it's no wonder that this movie, that the point where we are, so the early 80s, when all that is, forgive me, absorbed into the bigger narrative. This film is about a creature that does something akin to ideology in a media landscape. It gets into us. It alters our opinions and thinking if we're not vigilant or critical or skeptical, and even then, those can be inadequate defenses. And it makes us vehicles to perpetuate the new ideology that we've gathered. And so, like capitalism, it scrambles, it absorbs, it reworks everything, puts the logic of the market everywhere, every corner, every nook and cranny of our lives, in places it should never go, and I don't think it should go anywhere, to be honest. And this comes up in various manifestations. It's Borg, it's Axons, it's bit xenomorphs, it's pod people, it's
vampires, zombies.
and but I think what I'm saying is that it reaches a slightly different, because you've got the monsters of industrial capital, which I agree with you, Jack. A lot of that's coming out of anxieties around the proletariat. People like Disraeli making big speeches of why people can't have the vote, or why you can't have suffrage. The fear of the proletariat. Some of those speeches, by Whigs and Tories and people like Disraeli, even though he wrote Felix Holt, are absolutely. They're talking about a different species. They stood up in the House of Commons and talked about people who were the proletariat as if they were monsters. And these are recorded. You look back you read them and go, my God, But I think at this point, with the point we're in, which is neoliberalism, basically, the monster takes on a slightly different quality. The metaphor gets slightly shifted along, so we're confronting it because we know how damn effective the metaphor of the amorphous and hostile to anything but its own ideology monster this is. And like capitalism, the thing just mindlessly gets everywhere. It's one
mindlessly is the word. I think mindlessly is absolutely the word, because there are
consumable. Because you never get an idea of its full shape or form, and that's the brilliance of the film. The personification of these anxieties has no one identity.
Right, this is it, right? And not only does it have no one identity, it destroys identity. It's inimical to the very notion of identity and to purpose or to poetry. It just destroys everything that it absorbs, even though it recreates it. It recreates it in this twisted and perverted and kind of blind way. I don't read this as the alien, the virus, whatever the hell it is, having intention. It just does what it does on a kind of instinctive
level. It is
level.
what it does.
It's algorithmic, isn't it? It's like AI, right? It's algorithmic.
Discussed on Quatermass and the Pit. Virus isn't a bad analogy, but pattern or structure again is
that's it.
That's it.
It's the same. It's the same thing again. And again, I know I'm a broken record, but it's like capital, because capital doesn't have intention. It isn't, it isn't literally a thing that wants to do things. It just expands. That's just what it does. It's just a system that expands. It's just a system that predates, consumes, absorbs, and turns things into itself, and thus expands itself. And I think that's at the root of so much, if not all, horror as a modern genre. But we've seen these themes keep coming back
again.
Ash's speech in Alien about the perfect organism that's just a survivor. That could be a description of this thing.
Absolutely.
My description of the alien, when we talk about Alien, as just this pattern that assimilates and joins with other patterns and turns them into adaptations of itself. That could be a description of this thing in this film as well. Although the thing in this film does it more radically.
Or the hull in Quatermass and the Pit.
Exactly. Yeah. And also another film we already talked about, and it's another film in this sort of surge of 70s and 80s remakes of classic 50s science fiction, the 1970s Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes, of course.
When we talked about that, we talked a lot about, do these copies actually know that they're copies? Because they don't talk like they do.
No, they don't.
When you meet the copies, the pod people, they angrily they don't get angry, but they sort of refute the idea that they're not
the original,
that they're not proper people, that they're not the originals, that they're not human anymore. They think they are.
I think a similar thing happens here, because I think there's genuine relief with some people at the test and things like that, or there's genuine fear that because on
this watch through, I don't think this film makes any sense at all if you think that people that have been copied know that they're copies.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I was watching it and I thought, well, this isn't this meta, I mean, even as a metaphor, let alone a plot, this isn't like Borg. I don't think there's some kind of central knowledge store or memory store. I don't think the reason for the thing's existence, if you like, is to, build up a repository of absorbed knowledge as it sort of ingests different species. The matter is unimportant. It just, as we were saying, just needs to possess, to absorb, and to alter to survive as a pattern.
For function, right? For its own survival.
It's predatory survival, or it's predatory capital. It just gets into you, it absorbs you, or divides you, and it has this lifespan in that form where its only drive is to reproduce. So we've got all that. But I think each character still believes themselves,
they are.
in this
Yeah.
case to be
Yeah.
human, to be who they were. I just think there are drivers or impulses the thing has to ensure for its propagation. Hence,
Mhm.
a character might end up tearing up Macready's clothes to implicate
Yes,
him,
yes.
but they won't do it necessarily consciously.
No,
They'll
they won't
think
know that they've done it.
there's some other reason they're doing it, or sabotaging the blood supply.
Yep,
They might.
yep.
I think there are layers of beings.
I think
here
the pattern. I think the pattern can sort of assert itself, can't
Yes,
it?
that's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
Because
that's it.
when
That's it.
when we see Blair, his last appearance, it's pretty clear that he knows that he's not Blair. He knows that he's the thing on some level. But every other time we've seen Blair before that point, he has acted exactly as you would expect a human being that wasn't a replica to act. And yet at some point,
But I think that might be because of the
story.
social situations. Whereas when he's isolated, he only has the thing. Therefore, he does things like construct the tiny UFO and everything, the tiny flying saucer, because suddenly there's nothing. Everything's a social interaction when the
Yes.
when the thing is. But if it's isolated, if it's alienated, there is no need for the human part of the pattern to assert anymore, is there?
The
Because the social being.
imperative is gone, right?
There does seem to be a sort of triggering mechanism, doesn't there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when Mac puts the red hot needle, it's not a needle, is it? It's sort of an
It's a
electrical wire.
Yeah.
When he puts it into the little petri dish of Palmer's blood, Palmer up to that point has been behaving completely normally.
Completely
But
like
the
Palmer,
minute,
yeah.
the minute the needle activates the blood, Palmer changes.
Yeah.
So it's like the inner nature has been triggered. It's like it's been activated.
Yes, very much.
It's rather like when Norris has now, because I think this is fascinating, because it's replicating us or absorbing us, but Watson also to speak. So when Norris has the heart attack, that's the reason that it asserts that time as well.
Yes.
It takes something where it's like, well, I've got to be released. I've been sort of found out. I've got to be released from this host, and I've got to put the pattern out there.
You can read that two ways, I think. You can read it as Norris has been copied, doesn't know it, begins to experience what he perceives as chest pains or abdominal pains for some reason, because the pattern is sort of asserting itself.
Yeah.
Or you can read it as it is Norris still. He hasn't actually been absorbed and replaced yet, but he's been infected, which opens up the infection is in there and it's in the process of activating, which opens up the possibility that this thing has two vectors. One is the copying vector and the other is an infection vector.
Right, the infecting vector, yeah.
Well, I think incubation in this film is, if you ponder incubation for a moment, suddenly all these other possibilities open up as well, whether the implication is through bodily fluid or a touch or a tentacle or whatever, or a direct attack. I think that seems to be setting up different time frames by implication.
I think so. It seems to imply that there are numerous vectors of infection. It can absorb you like physically and copy you. It can actually digest you, or it can infect you through fluid or through touch.
Yeah, because the layers are there. I mean, clearly, like for example, near the end when we see, if you like, Blair thing, you do see all the previous patterns. They aren't entirely junked because the dogs are in there.
Right.
But I don't. But I think what's fascinating about the thing is that it doesn't. There's not much to it beyond its need to survive. So I don't think. I mean, one of the things I'm convinced in my own little headcanon is it's not the Thing's spacecraft at the start.
No,
that belongs to victims of a previous attack.
It's exactly that. It's
It's
exactly that. Yeah, it doesn't. I think it takes something away from the overall themes of if you read it as though that's the spacecraft of the thing.
It doesn't even look like the technology it would produce or it would need. So the idea of that kind of intelligence, but then of course you can surmise that the reason Blair Thing builds the saucer is only because he has memories of the saucer technology from those victims.
Absolutely.
So it's very basic as a creature, I think, or a pattern. It's Bruce. It's from Jaws. It's the alien.
So that really makes it incredibly like the alien from Alien, doesn't it? Because I mean, if you read that creature the way I read it, which is that I don't think there is a set, complete, discrete thing that we can call the alien or the xenomorph, if we must, that is a particular species that looks like that. I think what we encounter in that film looks like that because it is the melding
Yes.
of genetic information from a human being and whatever the fuck it is in that cockpit on
there probably
that
is no
planet.
original form. You know, it is
That's
an
it, right?
amorphous whatever. You know,
it's one
some of those
permutation of the
things with
pattern, isn't it?
spindly legs and all that. They're just they might have been the things that were the species that were on the craft, or maybe not. It could go back. It's almost like archaeological, isn't it? I mean, it's it just buries the previous patterns in the flesh. So, i.e., when Blair thing opens up at the end, you see bits of different people. You see the dogs from the beginning. You see whatever the hell it was previously, and previous to that, and so on and so forth.
That's interesting, though, isn't it? Because I've never read the sort of tower at the end as being Blair. I think there are two discrete. Well, I think there's more than two actually, but I think there are at least two,
doesn't it?
Basic iterations. There's the one that gets into the camp as the dog, and then that attempts to assimilate the dogs, and it's interrupted in the process, and some sort of half-formed mishmash of thing and dog escapes. We actually see it kind of reach up and smash its way through the ceiling and get out.
And these things don't work together. They are discrete.
No. I think they're discrete because I think that thing that we see at the end with the dog heads in it, that is that one. That's the one that it's the progress of the one that got into the camp via the dog. And then, although of course the dog has also infected or copied somebody else in the meantime while it's been padding around the camp. So if that's, I don't know if that's meant. I think it's meant to be Palmer. Yeah. But there's also, of course, the iteration of the thing that gets into the camp from the corpse that they bring back. That's a separate iteration, and I think it's interesting that the two iterations behave quite differently. The thing that gets out and is the result of a partial copying of dog, it kind of behaves a bit like a dog. It goes and hides, and then at the end it turns up again and attacks.
Whereas interesting.
The iteration of it that has got into humans and successfully succeeded in copying humans, I think you can read that. You can perfectly validly read it as just a mindless pattern. I think that's absolutely correct. You can also read it as playing a very, very clever game of chess throughout the play. I think the fact that the film opens with a game of chess kind of clues us in. Once you grant that if you are a copy or you are infected, you don't necessarily know that. Once you grant that, basically everything is up for grabs. Everything else, everything you see on screen is open to doubt, isn't it? Anybody could be doing literally anything when we're not watching them.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's a very good
our title
the blood
characters,
test.
Right?
Exactly. But the blood test, we don't know that blood test actually works.
No,
maybe when Max sticks the hot needle into Palmer's petri dish and it activates Palmer, maybe that is just the meta thing, as it were, sacrificing one pawn.
It could be a double bluff, right? The whole thing from Macready, quote unquote, could be an enormous double bluff. So
it's funny, I think you get the infamous. I think slightly. Well, it's not really that important when people sort of dwell on the ending.
No,
I think
of course, it's not important who's
you
the
can
thing
read
and who's
it
not and whatnot.
No, but it sort of taps into what Jack was saying. It means that every single scene or sequence or plot in this movie can be read so many different ways. But if you were to, for example, pick on the idea that just as a thought experiment, just as a conjecture, that it's Mac, then the idea is the thing. Again, you mentioned the chess. We have the chess wizards, the chess obsession of Macready, along with everything else about Macready. So it plays everyone at chess, like you said. But this might be more interesting if we posit the notion that Mac has been the thing from way back. That the blood in the petri dish that Mac says is actually it says is his is actually from the fridge. He held it back for the test.
Or the blood test thing just doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
When the blood when Palmer's blood reacts, that's just the meta thing saying I will activate now to make it look like the blood test works.
And that it obfuscates any other.
What do we know about Mac at the beginning? What's established about Mac at the beginning? When he's playing the computer at chess, when he doesn't win, when he can't win, he kicks over the chessboard, right? So assuming that he is absorbed or he is infected, maybe the entity takes that quality, and
Well, I think
that's
so.
what it's using, right?
I mean, I don't think so.
It's playing like it's not playing chess by any rules.
Yeah, I'm not saying definitively because I'm not, because
No,
I
of
think that the
course.
film's
No.
power is its
This is
ambiguity.
just
But just as
extrapolating
a thought
wildly,
experiment, it's like
Yeah.
you could suggest that he, if Mac were the thing, has stacked the deck because it won't care about sacrificing other things. We've just described that they are somewhat discrete. Now, either at the end, Childs is human and makes a huge mistake in accepting the bodily fluids from
the
that bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
Or Mac's smile isn't because he's infected the human Childs and therefore won the game of chess. Because basically what he does with Childs is what Mac does at the beginning with the computer. He pours whiskey into something to so it doesn't work. But or is that smile that Kurt Russell gives because he knows Childs is also a thing and that they'll freeze together and go on, which is actually Lancaster's original screenplay idea. And you could suggest that maybe Childs got infected when Palmer hands him the joint and he puts it in his mouth because both shared the joint. Because there have been, I know that one of the things that Carpenter said, I don't like that, it's cheesy. And I think he's right, is that the original draft ended with Childs and Mac both being the thing, and they get rescued at the end and thawed out. And the first thing that Mac says is, "So where can we get a good meal?" Which would have been the payoff line. And Carpenter said, "No, it's glib. It is.
It's too glib, and it's too definitive as well, isn't it? It's too definitive. It does away with that wonderful paranoia that's part and parcel of this film's appeal.
That's the thing. If it were a Schwarzenegger film.
Yes, if it was Predator, right? If it were Predator, that's what you'd get, right?
Or a Total Recall, which Cronenberg obviously got kicked off of.
Yes.
But the idea that interests me is that there might be, in some sense, the thing, and that might have various iterations, and that might kind of just be a pattern, and there might, in some sense, be a kind of a meta thing, because a corporate entity, a gestalt entity, can kind of be more than the sum of its parts.
Yes,
and when they start acting in concert, they can sort of generate a meta consciousness, as it were. And especially if you don't know that you're a copy, then everything Mac or whoever does could be completely sincere. Mac, in one line, "I know I'm human." Well, might very well mean that. When Copper and Gary are arguing over who could have sabotaged the blood with the key, they seem to be completely sincere.
They do.
Yet one of them could be the thing without knowing it. So there could be this gigantic chess game going on here between two iterations of the thing, or the sort of meta thing, as I mean it, and the humans, or whichever of the humans is actually still human. This film is actually, it's radically open. As I say, as I said, it completely detaches narrative and story. The narrative is as clear as crystal. Who goes where and what they do and ostensibly why.
It's like you said, it's a kind of a whodunit structure, isn't it?
It is. This is what whodunits do. Whodunits detach narrative and story. You get a narrative about the detective going all over the place and asking people questions, and the actual story hasn't been revealed to you because you know parts of it. And then at the very end of the story, you get the denouement, where you get the story that's been withheld from you filled back in, ostensibly anyway.
We don't get that.
One of the interesting things to me about whodunits is how often the denouement at the end that is supposed to fill in the gaps and make the story work behind the narrative, it just doesn't. It just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it's silly. Yeah, it often.
And this one seems to do without it altogether.
Yeah,
this one does without it altogether. There's no denouement. There's no explanation. So what you have is a very clear narrative about infiltration and crisis and fighting and fighting an alien being and so on. It's perfectly clear.
Yep.
But what's actually happening is at no point open for us to know. We cannot know what has actually happened in this film, because the maneuvers it pulls with the possibilities of characters not being who they seem and not knowing that they aren't who they seem, it completely, and it leaves so much out. Like you get what's going on with Blair in snapshots, and it's just impossible for there to be an actual story here behind the narrative.
And you get some
it
amazing
just
possibilities on that sort of linger on the edge of the narrative that you don't see. I find the subplot with Fuchs fascinating because he goes out, he's about to set up the test. He hears someone, he sees a shadow, he follows it out. Now, the idea that he is self-immolated, I don't know how he would have done it.
Yeah.
He's got to have been set alight by someone who's the thing. As part of that chess game, then the light goes on in Macready's cabin, and then there's the planting of this evidence or this suggestion, that suggestion. But of course, that whole sequence takes place off camera, rather like
as do so many crucial events.
the disappearance
almost
of Normal,
everything significant occurs off camera. That's one of the most fascinating things about the film, and it layers in implied complexity all the way through. There are little throwaway lines, there are little moments that just throw everything into doubt. There's that wonderful sequence where I think it's Childs when they're out in Macready's shack because the light is on, and he cuts him loose. He thinks that because of the shred.
Oh, it's Knowles.
Thing.
Knowles
it's not. Yeah. And he says, but it's Childs who says that nothing could find its way back through that storm. Nothing could survive out there, and yet Macready does.
Yeah,
and Knowles just has.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that is the light in the cabin is never explained.
No, it isn't. Who's up there? Why? What's going on? What do they find up there?
It's never explained when Blair gets got. There's a wonderful shot, one of the shots where Mac goes back to the tool shed to talk to Blair. He opens the hatch in the door and he talks to Blair sat at the table, and between them throughout the entire exchange, nobody remarking upon it, there's a noose.
Yes, the noose just hanging there, right. So at one point he intended something and then changed his mind.
Yeah, but who did?
Who did? Yes, right. And what does that imply about when the infection took place and to what degree it's progressed? It's utterly brilliant. It's utterly brilliant. And it's even down to the dog, right? The dog, when it first turns up, acts like a dog. It seems to be sincerely and completely a dog. It doesn't
probably thinks it is a dog.
It probably thinks it is a dog, right? It probably thinks it is a dog until it sees opportunity.
Well, until actually, to go back to Rob's point from earlier, it's a social situation that triggers it because it's put into the pen with the other dogs, which is, of course, a microcosmic picture of what's happened on the entire base. You have a load of males that are trapped together in an enclosed space, and an intruder is introduced. It's a sort of as above so below thing. But what happens is the dog is put in there with the other huskies. By the way, aren't they beautiful creatures?
Such beautiful animals.
I know, they're ravishing animals. But it's put in there. And the others start reacting to it because the other dogs, even if it doesn't know it's not a dog, they know it's not a dog. And it's that essentially social situation of peril that causes the trigger to happen.
Yes, it causes it to activate, doesn't it?
Yeah, the survival mechanism, essentially.
Yeah.
And then what happens is it looks more like the dog I've got. Who I'm looking at now, and who was watching it quite closely last night. It was quite funny. She was staring at all this stuff with dogs, and then when obviously the thing erupted, I went, "That one looks more like you, Marnie, than the others."
I mean, implied in the fact that we don't know how the infection works and to what degree it controls you, whether it's like cordyceps, like the fungus, it subtly and slowly erodes your sense of self. But there's a whole existential question there, isn't there? Very much akin to the one we find in The Fly.
Well, when you think that the dog has been chased across the tundra by the survivors and the Norwegians, and then it gets haven, it gets sanctuary amongst the humans.
Yeah.
So it does, because it's still in dog mode. The humans are these are protective beings. So Clark gets very close to it. Ample opportunity for it to infect Clark. It doesn't.
Right.
But then, as Jack says, when it's suddenly out of that scenario, and then in the scenario with creatures ostensibly of its own kind, and they're like, "Hang on, you're not what we think you are," and that happens with the humans when someone gets. It comes under focus as being you're not right. That's when it erupts and emerges. It's like it being found out is part
Yes,
of the
it
trigger
really
mechanism.
is. I mean, if it were entirely conscious of what it was doing and if it planned, then it wouldn't have allowed the blood test to go on from the first place, would it? I mean,
No,
he has to be
Unless, as I
tied
say,
down, he has to be bled, you know, and then it has to
unless it's
wait
playing a game of chess, in which,
unless it's playing the three.
we have no
Yeah.
reason to suppose that Mac is right about the blood
No, we
test.
don't. No, we don't.
it-
Charles is kind of
it-
right when he says it's bullshit. It doesn't
but of
prove
course,
anything. He's right.
Yeah.
yeah, the argument would be it's not playing chess. It's the minds of the humans that it's absorbed, which are operating on different levels, which would allow it to access the idea of tactics.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't have to be directly Macready, because we've seen him play Computer Wizard. There are people there who are all highly skilled, or that, you know, whether they're Gary, who is got a military background, therefore has an idea of tactics, or whether they're one of the scientists and therefore they've got a sort of academic understanding of a proposition, logic. You know, it's drawing on that. I never get the impression from the film, although it's not to say it's not the case, it's just I don't get the impression that this is a sentient thing.
No.
It's drawing on the collective intelligence of everything. It is that little virus moving around on that computer graphic, just absorbing and altering. That's
it's algorithmic. It's fungal. It's like like cordyceps. You know, it's one of the great existential questions of the film, isn't it? Very much akin to that teleporter problem in The Fly. What happens to the people who are infected, who are incorporated into this entity? What happens to your consciousness? You know,
if Blair's theory is right,
what do you experience?
If Blair's theory is right, you are physically absorbed. You are actually broken down and eaten, essentially. And then the organism reorders itself, or sort of sprouts sprouts offspring, essentially, which is a copy of you. A physical copy of you. And apparently, by what we see on screen, and as I say, I don't think it really makes sense any other way, apparently it's also a mental copy of you. It's just that it kind of has this time bomb inside it,
this genetic
which can be activated. But then again, Blair at the very end, he does seem to be very conscious of what he's doing. And then you get Bennings, when Bennings escapes sort of half copied. The way that the Bennings copy looks at them just before they kill it. I don't think there's an answer to this.
No, I don't. It's full
this
of
is what I love about this film.
It's so brilliant. It's brilliant.
Radically, what is actually happening is radically indeterminate.
Yeah.
It just can't be known.
It's part of the beauty of the film. It's where that wonderful ethos of foreboding comes from. It's the confusion, isn't it? But it doesn't overplay it. That's the other thing. It's very subtle, because there's no exposition. You don't have characters talking about it, or the film very in a sort of Nolan-like sledgehammer way reinforcing it all the time. It's just there. It's natural. It's in the cracks. It's in the absences. Which is
not something you can say of the original story, which lays it on with a trowel.
I really don't like who goes there. I really don't like it. I read it for the first time, oh my God, about 10 years ago in a collection of body horror, interestingly. And I was really looking forward to it. You know, I'd seen the film by that point, so both of the films, and I was really excited to read it. And I do not like it. I find it very hard to read. This film is the antithesis of it. It's the same story ostensibly, but this is the antithesis of it in terms of style.
It's very similar. It's more similar than I expected, because I just read it for the first time for this. Of course, it has a happy ending,
it does,
and it's not as outrageously gory, or as it doesn't describe half the sequences of bodily. No. You do get some of that. I mean, that's why I think there is definitely some heavy duty Lovecraft influence in there, because you get stuff about the being sprouting claws from tentacles and things, and it's specifically described as jelly or protoplasm, which strikes me as very directly coming from Mountains of Madness.
Right? It's Shoggoth,
most of the actual sort of body horror, body transformation sequences in the film are original to the film's script, but there's a lot of character names in common, and a basic shape to it that's similar to the film.
Very similar. The overall structure is the same.
Yeah, it's just sort of essentially identical characters squabbling and philosophizing at each other, really.
That's the
Probably
thing
the
I
only
really
thing
dislike. I
the
really
only thing
dislike. They are like
remember of that.
textbooks.
The only thing I can remember about it, because it's years and years and years since I've read it, is doesn't it pull a kind of, doesn't it do a kind of Rime of the Ancient Mariner thing with an albatross, which may be the thing that leaves at the end, and you know, because it's airborne, they want.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
All right, I'm not imagining that. Right,
No, that is
that's the one.
definitely
That's
part
the
of
thing.
it.
The thing that is the thing I remember. But yeah, I can't recall coming away from it thinking, oh well, okay.
No, it's very dry, and there's reams and reams of exposition. There are characters just who are they're all specialists. One of them's a geologist, one of them's a meteorologist, and so on and so forth. And they give these long screeds about their specializations, and it's boring.
The dialogue is very, very cheesy as well.
Isn't it?
By heaven, I'll send that thing back to the hell it came from.
Yeah.
And stuff like this. Very dated.
It's very dated. 1938, I believe. The original short story.
Yes, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Well, and there are two versions of it. There are two versions of it. The original one that was published, and then a longer form one, which is the one that most people read now. It's the one that's published in most of the short story collections and whatnot, and it's just
just to increase the pain.
Yeah, I don't like it at all. It's a very boring story. It's that cardinal sin, right? I mean, it can talk about anything it wants. It can talk about any number of ideas. It can be as intelligent as it likes, but it's really dull.
It is, but it does have the idea of the alien as being sort of a network of discrete copies of the same thing. Iterations of the same thing, and it does have the idea of the alien copying human beings, and I think it does have the idea of the human beings that have been copied not knowing it as well. By implication, yeah, I think that's in the original story. So it's a real it's a real case of taking source material that isn't really very good, but does have some very promising ideas in it.
This is it, right?
And turning it into a magnificently
elevating it.
Yeah.
I mean, by extension, this is also an adaptation of At the Mountains of Madness, right? It has.
I think so. Yeah. Well, the time frame fits, doesn't it? Because it was just before. If this was 1938, the story, then it was just before that Mountains was eventually published in one of exactly the sorts of magazines that John W. Campbell was reading.
Was obviously involved with. Yeah. So I think the DNA is very much there. It's just that this film just does it better. It takes the base elements, it takes the ideas, and it makes them into something elegant and beautiful and very engaging. I mean, we were saying before you came on, Jack, it's just so fucking watchable, isn't it? On any level, it's just such a good film.
It's taut. It's it's
lean. It's lean as hell.
Well, this is its particular claim to being a masterpiece, I think, which is the way that it combines this crystal clear, logical, propulsive narrative with an actual story behind the narrative that is just completely unknowable.
Yeah,
that's really not something. I can't think of another film that does that.
I can't think of
genuinely
anything that does it, and certainly not like this, where you can watch it at a surface level, and it's a great sort of popcorn horror with great body elements, amazing effects, and even a couple of really good gags. Right, some of the gags are great. I love the gags.
Great jokes.
The characters are inherently funny. Almost all of them are inherently funny on some level. McCready's fucking hilarious with his alpha male loner thing. I love it. I love it to bits.
Well, Mac is really... Sorry, go on, Jack.
I was just going to say, I love that the entire blood test sequence takes place in front of a big careful about STDs poster.
Yes.
They're not labeled chum, says the sexy lady on the poster.
But Mac is interesting because one of the things that I sort of came away from it is because obviously McCready is the rugged frontiersman. He's the loner. He's the man.
Let me just say, Kurt Russell is fucking beautiful in this film.
Oh, I mean, he went for this because he took a long time growing that hair and beard. I know that.
He looks amazing, doesn't he?
But McCready's the man who sort of strategizes and shuns society. So he is, as a character, he's built to possibly survive this. He is the one, that one character who could drop off the grid if needs be. He could exist outside of capitalism, but he has.
It's funny how they all defer to him right from the start.
Isn't that interesting? Because he is
just
not
a pilot.
He's just a pilot. He is not the
even
commander.
if Childs is antagonistic towards him, they all do. Yeah.
But
Childs defers to him at key points. Yeah, even though
but at key points. Yeah. But he has. He's not idealized. Obviously, he has that drink issue. He doesn't take defeat well. But what I found interesting was that the movie, because it's an American movie, inevitably it's dealing with all these anxieties, but it can't help but champion that kind of rugged individualism as it means to confront the darkness of late stage capital accumulation. The only alternative obviously is to go further west and cultivate his own space, to live freely, because the alternative is solidarity with your class and revolutionary action, and that's not part of the American myth of itself. So you need a character like Macready to stand in opposition to all this, because that's really the only thing that the American myth can provide. It needs a Kurt Russell type Mac character who is a loner, who goes up into a shack alone,
has his own cabin.
That's like the only way that this text can confront the idea of terrifying, amorphous, monstrous, predatory capital.
I do think that one of the things this film is about is kind of America and manifest destiny.
Very much.
Because,
very much
as you say, Mac is very much the frontier. It's a frontier story, this. And Mac is very much the frontier's character. He even wears a cowboy hat. And it's not literally west, obviously. It's south. But they've gone as far they've gone as far as you can go. They're in Antarctica. They're actually they've expanded as far as you can expand in one direction.
This is
and they've reached the wilderness, and they're there to conquer, essentially, to tame it and understand it and plant the American flag. And they encounter this it's the Blair Witch Project thing again.
And it's also at the Mountains of Madness, right? There's a reason why these stories are set where they're set.
The map expands as far as it can into the wilderness. And it meets something there that is kind of the antithesis of its idea about itself, this radically irrational force that stops it expanding any further. And I think you can look upon the people on the base as kind of, apart from the fact that there's no women in this film at all, apart from the voice of the computer in one line, you can look upon this as kind of a cross-section of American society, because you have the doc, you have the cop, you have the frontiersman, you have the stoner guy with his spliffs, and you have the black working class in the kitchen, and and it plants its flag and tries to expand into this bit, and this bit just says nope and destroys it.
I think in a way, though, you could almost argue, I love an overreading, so allow me this, that a la Alien, there is possibly some suggestion of the female presence, which is the thing itself, the thing that reproduces, that has certain kinds of monstrous distortions of female imagery, and it's very interesting that at the very beginning I always find that Mac, when he's defeated by the computer, uses that pejorative. It calls it a bitch.
Calls it a bitch,
And then his next adversary is something that reproduces, and then there's all this connotation around STDs, as you say. There's the poster in the background, and so on. So again, you can arrive, as with Alien, at this idea of the confrontation of men or toxic male culture being confronted by something that impregnates, reproduces, and can kill them.
Well, that certainly ties in with my reading as the whole thing as being a chess game against the meta thing. If you have that in microcosm right at the start, Mac loses the chess game and says cheat and bitch and decides to destroy the entire chessboard. That's kind of what happens in the
is what happens in macrocosm right at the end when he torches the entire facility, right?
And of course, if we do look upon this as a Lovecraftian film, and I think certainly by 1982, you're John Carpenter, you're going to be in the same way that the Lovecraft influence is there in the original text. It's definitely here in this film.
It's going to be in his mind, isn't it? It's going to be there somewhere.
The film goes out of its way to show you a gigantic eye sprouting on one of the things at one point, which is a direct reference to the Shoggoths. That's what they do. We get that described in Mountains of Madness. And many people have read Lovecraft's various entities comprising goo and jelly and splooge and bubbles and lips, and many people have read them as expressions of terror of the female anatomy, genitalia, and I mean, Cthulhu has been called a gigantic predatory vagina.
Well, I mean, given Lovecraft's issues and problems and phobias, that's not entirely out there, is it? Let's be honest.
I think sometimes
did have an abiding fear of the female form.
I think that reading of Lovecraft is probably overstressed myself, but I think it's in there.
It's definitely in there. It's in the mix, isn't it? It's part of it.
But it's interesting you should say about characters and talk about the characters, because one of the things that quite surprised me when I was just going back and just seeing about how it was received at the time, because I knew it was received very badly at the time. It was a complete...
Oh my God, have you read the reviews?
But one of the things that kept the reviews seemed to be consistent on, other than they're sort of like, the pearl clutching over the viscera and the horror, was this has no characters, and I thought, well, this is fascinating, because now it is true to say that this movie does not get bogged down about background tensions, because that would chuck another 40 minutes onto what is a very lean plot.
But most of this film is character interaction.
Well, this is it. But the thing is, what I think is the genius of this film in many ways is Carpenter or Lancaster, the screenplay writer, the script writer, or a combination of them, they express characterization in the purest way possible for this film. Because what we learn, do we learn the details about each character? It's how they respond to being afraid and the responsibility that comes with surviving. That brings all their characterization to the fore. That's what makes it interesting. Then you get to see, for example, Clark prefers dogs to people. He's withdrawn. Blair loses it because he gets the implications. Childs goes from cynical denial to seeing it as just another way he has to vie with Mac. Gary is a leader in title only. Windows is panicky. Knowles, because I love the way that Knowles is somewhat twinned with Windows, but he's brave because he's clearly scared and trying anyway. And then you get these other characters like Fuchs, who falls back into his sort of academic or career training to sort of stay level-headed. That's full of characterization. Everyone's got an angle. Everyone's got an angle they pursue and a reason to pursue it. They've got a class position. They've got a status. I mean, Fuchs really throws his weight about. Bennings really throws his weight around for someone who's not really. He's sort of in the middle of the command chain, and therefore that may be his anxiety and why he does throw his weight around. He snaps at Knowles for playing his music loud. He snaps at someone else at some point in the meeting room and tells other people to do things. You're like, have you really got the status or the? So, because everything is built around a bunch of people who are afraid and don't know how to survive. I know he's the thing at that point, but there's a lovely moment where Norris just says, "Sorry guys, I'm not up to it."
I'm not up to it. Yeah.
These are fantastic little kernels of characterization. But again, it comes back to something we've talked about many times as we've explored these genres. It's already the good taste pack dog critic is already on the back foot when it comes to these genres. It's already, this film is only an hour and 45 minutes. It's plot driven, it's action, it's about its special effects, therefore its characterization can't be there. Ergo, I will say its characterization is not there. But as we've just said, this is a character-driven film.
It's a character-driven film. Really? And not only that, it establishes characters so beautifully and so eloquently. Again, it's like Alien. Economically,
it doesn't belabor it. And because, like I said, that's to add 40 minutes. We don't need a 40-minute build-up, finding out all their interactions in minute detail and it comes through when they're put to the test.
Yeah.
I love
And
all
also
those little
too-
conversations between Macready and Fuchs. I love they're so different. One's an academic and one's a sort of like tough loner, but they find respect for each other and they just converse, and it's lovely, but it's not labored.
It's not forced. Yeah, it's not expository. They're not talking to the audience. They're not breaking the
This
fourth
is
wall.
this is one of the really interesting things. There seems to be a kind of an unspoken kinship in the group between Mac and the two intellectuals.
Yes,
Because
very much so.
Blair and Fuchs are the two intellectuals.
Yep.
The place is full of scientists, obviously, but very clearly Fuchs and Blair are the two brainy, thinky guys.
Yeah.
They're the ones who actually think about things, and they both kind of relate to Mac above everybody else.
Yeah, they both go to Mac before anybody else. They both talk to and confide in Mac before anybody else. They trust Mac.
Yeah.
He's intelligent, albeit not in their academic
in a
background.
non-standard
He gets
way.
things done, and it's like the film is reacting to the fact that it's got Kurt Russell as leading man. He's the leading man of his own life. He's clearly the attractive, charismatic leading man, and of course he fulfills that rugged frontiersman ideal. You see literally characters scurrying after him to keep the pace. There's this one moment where he strides off and Norris scurries after him, and you're reminded of, like, as you say, Gary Cooper and the guy who takes the tickets at the railroad in High Noon scurrying after him, across the plain. That's what this is playing with. You've got and because it's so embedded in American culture as well, the jock shall reign. The clever guys know this. The academic guys know this. And we need someone who we can pass our information on to, because we neither have the status nor the standing to translate it to everyone.
Right.
There's
that's
some
why
lovely...
they all cluster around him, and the only one who doesn't is Childs. And I think it's interesting because obviously Childs is a rival. I think there's a possibly very interesting thing to connote there through race, because Childs is very much almost explicitly referred to as being uppity. At one point, they used the uppity trope against him. You're not going to step up. And
there's a wonderful line,
because it's his personality, and how much of it is because obviously he knows where he sits, and then they're basically throwing racial stereotype at him.
There's a great line. He
bubbling
tries to take the gun when Gary gives it up, and Mac and Clark actually stop him, and Mac says, "I think we need somebody a little more even-tempered."
Why
which is a real insult. It's a real profound insult.
Why? It's interesting because Childs takes it, doesn't he? As well, he defers at that point.
Yeah. And we've already seen Knowles have to, turn that damn music down. Whitey asking him to turn that damn music.
Yeah.
I like Knowles much on the racial politics bit. I like Knowles much more than Childs, because Knowles just says, "Yeah, okay," and then doesn't do it, and he calls people "bwana" sarcastically as well. That's great.
His whatever happens to him, it kind of takes that alien Dallas and idea and takes it even further. He just wanders away and is never seen again. It's so peculiar. It's highly effective, because there's also a part of me, because I don't know about you guys, but this is one of those films where you're presented with an ensemble, and it just crossed my mind, like, who would I be drawn to if I was thrown in there with them? Because I'm effectively in there with them, because that's how the film operates. The fourth wall is very important to this film. And I thought, well, I would probably feel like I would gravitate towards Knowles. I would probably gravitate towards Fuchs. There's not many other characters I feel I'd probably gravitate towards, probably those two. So I didn't really want to see Knowles buy it badly, to be honest.
No, and you don't, of course. I mean, you're right, he just disappears. There's an absence there, isn't there?
Yeah.
That's kind of terrifying.
Yeah, but like it's very. I just found it quite interesting to watch it from that perspective of almost transposing myself into it. And I thought, well, I wouldn't. Palmer would bother me. Childs would get on my nerves.
Childs, the
Creedy's unknowable.
Ethos around Childs would be like static, isn't it? It's a brilliant bit of acting, by the way.
Oh
you can
yeah, I'd
feel
probably
it. You
argue
can
with
feel,
Bennings.
yeah,
I'd
you can
probably tell him to
feel
fuck off.
the sort of hostility and the impatience radiating off of him. It's brilliant. It's
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
but
I mean,
but again, it's not laboured, but there's
no,
an awful lot we can read in there, and
yeah,
I almost went bolt upright in my chair, and it was like, did Macready just basically accuse him of being an uppity black guy just there?
kind of, yeah. I mean,
It's
but
like,
there's the stuff
wow.
with McCready as well, isn't there? I mean, like, it's totally unspoken. It's all in the framing, it's all in the performance and his relation to the
Mhm.
other characters. But you get the impression that he's a total misanthrope from the very beginning, right? He
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
really like people very much. And there's an implication that maybe he has a past, maybe he has a history, maybe they all do. Why are they out here? Why would anyone take this posting like in the arse end of nowhere in one of the most inimical places to humanity where you've got to spend months, if not years, alone?
And what's
But when
really
the
telling about this film is I just kept thinking, this is not to denigrate the kinds of films I'm about to mention, because I actually really rather like a lot of them. But
Mhm.
if this film had been delayed and turned up a little bit later, it would have been a Total Recall incident. It would have been an Arnie
Mhm.
film, because it
Mhm.
ever so slightly wants to be at times. Like when Kurt
Little
Russell's
bits,
doing
yeah.
his somersaults and throwing his dynamite, very
Mhm.
well targeted as well. But because it's Russell, it takes some of the thing off. It takes some of
Yeah,
the edge off that in a good way. But
yeah.
if that film had turned up in 1986, that would have been a Schwarzenegger
It
movie.
probably would, yeah. And there
And
are
it would have
even
been
like,
glorious in its way, but
yeah.
it wouldn't have been this.
It even has some of the one-liners, doesn't it? It even has
Mm.
some of the quips and whatnot, just occasionally, and they're actually brilliant because they do serve to break the tension just a little bit, and you
Mm.
need it. They're so well timed. They're so
Mm.
well placed because one of the other things this film does, it not only has the underlying mystery of the narrative that's running underneath the story, that's running underneath the plot, it also has that incredible gallows tension, which is everywhere. It's not even when things are happening, it's just there. It's in the grain of the film, it's in the editing, it's in the framing. There's something about it that makes you tense. It makes you
Well, every shot
mm,
feels like you're the I don't know how many of them are there. 8.
mm.
You're the ninth person in the room,
Yes, that's
and
it.
that's
That's
very
exactly it.
palpably felt. That's there in the way the camera moves down corridors and passageways, the way you are positioned as the POV.
Yeah.
I know that's nothing original. And many films do that, but I've never been as conscious of it as I was
Right.
last night.
It's
It's like,
very
oh,
intense.
I'm the ninth guy.
It's very intense. So you need those little moments of levity, and they're all very natural as well. They work. They
Mm.
really work because you buy it from these characters. I mean, the classic is "You got to be fucking kidding me," right?
Yeah. Which
Great
is great. And I
moments.
think that links back to something we were saying earlier, Jack was saying earlier as well, of this idea. I really think Palmer's authentic in that moment. He doesn't
Mm.
think he's the thing.
oh yeah, yeah.
No, no, no.
That's
Absolutely.
him.
I mean, I think that's one of the greatest
Or
indications.
it's
It's one of
not the
the
thing,
biggest bits
the
of
thing
evidence.
speaking through his voice.
Right.
That's a genuine reaction.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And you need that moment. I mean, because of what you've just seen, what you've just experienced, what you've experienced up until that point is utter chaos. It's
Mm.
just the most incredible, gory, mental, anatomical insanity. You've not only
And how is,
seen,
I
you
mean,
know,
and in that sequence, how is Rob Bottin a real person? I
yeah,
mean, the guy was 22. He'd
yeah.
already done The Howling and American Werewolf in London. He'd already pioneered prosthetics and
Yeah,
makeup and hydraulic effects. Uh,
I
you know,
mean,
this kid, this
it's
stoner from
yeah,
California. I mean, and what
it's
the hell?
crazy,
How
isn't
is
it?
he a real
I know,
person?
I know. It's
It's
magic,
like a
isn't it?
character that's been invented.
It's
Uh,
magic.
for the action and the things he did on this film. I mean, he basically slept on the lot,
Yeah.
and it took him a year, and he then had double pneumonia at the end
Hmm.
because of how far he put. Because he campaigned to play Palmer,
Hmm.
and they said you've got too much on your plate. You can't take that on as well.
Yeah.
In fact, actually, in terms of casting, we dodged an awful lot of bullets with this film
Oh,
because
really?
by I think one of its great strengths is apart from Russell, and it makes thematic sense that Macready is the charismatic leading man in his own
Hmm.
lifetime. But all these are wonderful character actors who people might have recognized but not known their name.
from like American
And that was-
television and whatnot, right?
Yeah,
And
because like they auditioned people like Palmer. They auditioned like Jay Leno to play Palmer. They they had like
How interesting.
they had like Lee Marvin up to play Gary, and he nearly agreed. But the thing is, wonderful an actor as Lee Marvin is, you sit there going, "That's Lee Marvin playing Gary,"
Yeah,
and then it tips the status of all the characters out of kilter, because then we lose.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You lose the
And
dynamic
you
between
couldn't-
the characters, then, don't you?
Yeah.
If you get
And
if
it
you give
works that
someone,
they're somewhat anonymous. Yes, we recognize Kurt Russell, but and we, as you say, you'll know people from television and maybe certain other films, but the fact is they are totally believable working stiffs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You couldn't have Jay Leno as Palmer because he's a disgusting, slimy alien anyway. So that'd ruin the effect.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to hide that, would you? So
No.
it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
He'd change, and everybody, the audience would be like, "Yeah, I don't see a difference."
They're the same picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, some really, the studio doing its thing, and but as it turned out, it all worked out for the best.
Yeah, and they're all brilliant, aren't they? I mean, again, it's like Alien. A lot of the work is taken off of the director and whatnot by the casting, because the casting it's flawless. I mean, it's utterly fantastic.
And it also comes back to something that I always remember. I think I can't remember which episode we were talking about it, but I think Jack and I went off slightly down a classic Who rabbit hole, as is our wont. And Jack said something about how watching a story from the 1960s as a child in the 1980s, thanks to BBC Video, and being sort of staggered by the disparity, not just because of the black and white, but so much else beside. And also here, watching this film, which is now, it's going to be, 45 years old.
No, really?
And
Jesus.
And then doing a direct link to the movie from 1950. Now, so it's a longer distance now between now and The Thing than it was between The Thing and The Thing from Another World, and
Really?
yet everything about the Thing from Another World, and it's not unique, obviously, amongst it's just the way things were, the acting styles, the way dialogue was penned, the massive change,
the whole ethos, the whole
ethos.
I mean, even thing,
but 45 years between now,
the whole worldview is completely different.
It's completely different. Completely
but everything
different.
from 45 years between The Thing and now, you can't detect the changes. I mean, acting is broadly the same as it was when this was, that almost Stanislavski thing, that post Brando thing that was coming through in American, really like Cobb, really Spencer Tracy, but because they were the odd men out in their era. But everything about in that original Thing from Another World just feels like it's from another world.
Yeah,
it's not relatable at all.
No, it's heightened and it's very precise and theatrical, isn't it? Everyone's very clipped and they know exactly what to say. Conversations are a bit noirish, aren't they? They're very like a dance almost, or like a song. Everything has poetry and intention. Which don't get me wrong, I love noir cinema, I love it to bits, but I don't really like that film. I don't like The Thing from Another World.
I hate that film.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
The only thing I'm a bit soft on it is I think there's some beautiful cinematography.
Yeah,
I mean,
there is. I mean,
in some ways on scale, in some shots on scale, it's more so than The Thing, but it is fundamentally, bad in every other respect.
Yeah, I will always respect a film that attempts the full body burn, which is a very dangerous stunt, and at that time even more dangerous. And it does it very well. I mean, this film replicates it twice. It actually does 2 full body burns. This one, and does it beautifully. But beyond
something
that,
locked in, and something really locked into our way of making film. No, of course there have been changes. Of course, and some developments have been clearly for the worst, as the three of us as middle-aged men have often known. But it really hits. It's like, hang on, this is nearly 45 years old. This film, and yet the disparity between it and now, and its antecedent is so glaring.
Yeah.
One is almost non-existent, one is massive.
Yeah, and we have another comparison, of course, because we have the prequel to the thing, which is it's an odd project, isn't it? It's a very disturbed project, unfortunately. The original,
I have deliberately never watched it, so
it's the original intention was to create like a homage almost. So it was going to be entirely practical effects, and it was even shot, I believe, wasn't it, Jack? They actually did create the film using entirely practical effects.
I think it was actually Rob Bottin again.
Yeah. And then the studio came in and said, no, it's like the mid-2000s. We don't make films like this anymore. You've got to do it with CG.
As far as I know, that's exactly what happened. They did it, or mostly did it, with practical effects, with some CGI at the edges, and the studio just refused to release it, and it got overridden with CGI effects. And,
I mean, don't get me wrong, that's not the only problem. There is a problem conceptually, because it's a prequel. It tries to explain what happens at the Norwegian base,
the thing,
and
that's the thing that I dislike most about it, to be honest. Yeah. I can watch and enjoy a monster movie with CGI in it. I don't like CGI. I'd rather watch practical effects any day of the week. Yeah. But I can watch it if it's an otherwise good film. And I think the prequel for the thing is, in itself, it's not really a bad film.
No, it's not.
For what it is.
It's fine.
But the fundamental conceptual problem with it is that it's supposed to be what happens at the Norwegian base.
Well, we already know.
I don't want to know.
Yeah, and besides, we don't need to. We don't need it explained. We know. We know because the film that we're talking about now, the 1982 thing, it gives you enough to put it together in your own head. You don't.
But what it gives you can't
those
quite put together in your own head, because the thing is extraordinary. When you come to the end of the film, you think, hang on, at the beginning of the thing is vulnerable enough that it's being chased by the last two survivors of the Norwegian research station in a helicopter, and they've got the upper hand. It's frightened and it's running away. What has gone wrong for it? What? Because this thing is incredibly powerful, and it is incredibly subtle, and it gets. How has? I mean, I don't know if the prequel. Quote unquote explains this or not, but one of the fascinating tensions is going, hang on a moment, did it get locked inside the dog mode? Is it vulnerable? Is it running low on energy? Did it not know there were two survivors, and it's just trying to get to the next research station in order to do the same thing again? It's up for grabs again, because they're in the position of power at the beginning, the Norwegian pursuers.
The thing is, they might not even know for certain that dog is an iteration of the thing. They might just be trying to eliminate anything and everything.
Any host, any potential host.
Yeah, the thing that got, that dog is the only thing that got out of the base. So they're trying to
The only thing we know is that the Norwegian has been translated. So what we do know is that he says, apparently, if the source for this is reliable, get the hell out of there. It's not a dog. It's an alien.
Real.
Yeah, get away, you idiots.
So basically, he tells you, he gives it away. Like, it's brilliant. Absolutely,
relying on the fact that none of us will probably be able to speak Norwegian.
Yeah, utterly brilliant. I love it. I love it to bits.
We come to realize as the film goes on, either or both of those men might be things and not know it.
And not understand.
There it is.
Yeah.
But the prequel is infuriating for its project of sort of explaining everything that you see in the Norwegian base,
in the axe in the door, in the wall. It explains that. It explains. It takes all of the shots, all of the moments that we see and which imply so much.
Retroactively fits them.
It just explains them. And
it's doing it. That was sort of in vogue in cinema at the time. It was not long after Revenge of the Sith, which spends its last act trying to join up seamlessly with the beginning of Star Wars 77 and failing, by the way.
Massively.
And Red Dragon does a similar thing. It tries to end as if it's leading straight into Silence of the Lambs.
Which it is not. Those films are not set in the same goddamn universe, I can tell you.
No, this was a kind of trend at the time, and it's trying to do something like that. And it's I hate it because those
Yeah, me
sequences with Mac and the doc at the Norwegian base, those are probably my favorite sequences in the entire film.
Yeah.
Once you know what's coming, when you're watching it for the fifth time and you're not going to be surprised by anything and you're not going to be stunned by the creature effects. Watching it just as a mood piece,
Yeah.
those sections with them encountering this ruined, shattered, snow-blown chaos of a destroyed, and the guy who's slit his own wrists and the blood has frozen, and then the body that they find partially burned in the yard and everything, and the wonderful moody sections of Morricone's score.
Yes. Oh my god, the score is insane, isn't it?
The video footage sequences where you have these eerie shots on the little TV screen of this men in the distance,
which look actually rather like the better shots from The Thing from Another World.
They do.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like Carpenter has recreated some of the shots from The Thing from Another World.
That shocked me about that, and I said, when we decided to do this film, I thought, it's probably about 5 years since I last saw it. So I thought, it's still quite fresh in my head, and I thought the whole exploration with Macready and is it Doc Copper? I thought it all happened off screen. And so I'm watching going, I don't remember this. I don't remember them actually. Am I looking at a director's cut? No. I completely got it into my head that was an off-screen thing, and we saw them come back and report it. And so it was all anecdotal. And then we saw little bits of the video footage, but I'd completely forgotten that we actually do see them go there.
Yeah, and it's
so it was like watching a film, that bit of the film for the first time. It was fantastic. I was like, I don't remember any of this, but it's wonderful.
It's one of the great bits of atmospheric storytelling in the entire film. It's utterly brilliant. The little seeds of story that it plants in your imagination. And part of the reason I resent the existence of the prequel, the conception of the prequel, is because part of the horror and atmosphere of this film, part of its intensity, it lies in that interplay between the audience and what they're given. So
yes, exactly.
It takes that away. It actively takes that away. No, whatever's in your imagination is wrong. This is what really happens, right? It's like, fuck off.
That is the really totally peculiar power of this film, which is that it refuses to have a set knowable story behind the narrative.
Yeah.
And the Norwegian camp is like a signal of that. It's the first intimation that that's what we're going to be in for, because we get enough information to know that something happened, and we can just about describe the faint outline of the events, but we can't and will never know exactly what went on there. We can only guess at the outline of it.
Yeah, because it's actually giving us
the entire rest of the film. So to go back and do a prequel where it shows you everything in detail, including how the fire axe ended up in, and details from the Norwegian camp prefigure what will happen at the US camp as well.
Cool.
The axe in the Norwegian camp prefigures an axe attack in the US camp. The man who commits suicide in the Norwegian camp prefigures the noose in Blair's cabin, etc. And to go back and show, and of course the prequel has to also one up the original. So it has Mary Elizabeth Winstead going down into the big alien spaceship.
Into the alien ship,
Yeah. And it punctures everything.
It does. I mean, don't get me wrong. When you see one of the aliens from the ship, they're actually really well designed. They're really interesting. It's just, it doesn't have any weight, and it's too much. It's just too much.
It's too much information.
We don't need to know this.
The Norwegian thing, again, it's thematic to the 1982 film, which is rather like the dogs in the cage, as above, so below, and also replication, duplication. It's
a chain of the same events happening over and over again.
The pattern is repeated. The pattern is literally repeated. But but it's that peculiar thing of early 21st century popular culture anyway, well, a lot of culture, which is not only are things aesthetically and politically neutralized, it's like now we have to explain everything, and we have to not only explain the missing parts of plots, we have to announce everything that might we be a subtext, and we have to make it supertext.
Yeah.
And that is a very, very peculiar. But that to me is part of a similar malaise. That's like when these guys came of age, the John Carpenters and the David Cronenbergs, and to an extent the John Landises, and started to make films that they saw go out in the 50s and 60s as kids, as these very, very thoughtful, ambiguous, really rich pieces. As I was saying this about The Fly, there's a certain point reached. Something comes of age, the genre comes of age, and then we get this kind of manufactured attempt to do the same slightly later on, which is like, well, let's just plug in everything about the mythos, and it's like, let's not.
That's not right.
Because you end up with, for all the things that are admirable about it, you end up with a Prometheus. You end up with this version of the thing. It's like, what is this obsession? It's the obsession of cataloging everything. It's because it seems to me it's the point where understandable and sympathetic geekery, the geekery that makes John Carpenter remake The Thing from Another World, becomes the insufferable list-making nerdism. That is at the end of that. If you're dragged down that rabbit hole too far,
it's seeing the cracks.
It's trying to pin it. It's trying to pin them off and put it under the glass.
It's seeing the cracks and the abysses in this film where story is born, where mystery is born, and seeing them as flaws. Oh, we need to fill them in. We need to just not only explain, but we need to justify.
And of course, this is heavily foreshadowed.
No, you don't.
This is heavily foreshadowed in a complaint that John Carpenter made himself when John Carpenter's actually, by comparison to some of his contemporaries, quite compliant. When he realized he was doing a big studio film, he said, well, I'm not there to argue with the executives. I'll do a lot of the things they want to do. And test audiences, for instance. And someone asked him at the test audience, well, what's the end about? Who is one of them the thing? And he says, well, that's up to your imagination. He said, and I said it, and the young person looked at me and went, oh, I hate that kind of thing. He said, and that just seems to me like the malaise that gets caught up eventually, is this idea that everyone needs everything, explaining everything absolutely, and it's explained in it's always the most underheaded choice as well.
Well, it is it's always
the thing is,
and please don't do it.
Do you hate that type of thing? This is why test audiences are such a bad idea, because studios just take everything test audiences say literally. Test audiences, they give them the checklist or the reaction form or whatever to do, and people just react on a single viewing as explicitly as consumers. They know they're there to act as consumers, so they act as consumers. So they say things like, oh, I don't like the ambiguous ending. Do you not? You were interested enough by the ambiguous ending to go up to the director and ask him what was going on. That doesn't sound to me like you didn't like it. It sounded to me like you were fascinated by it.
And also, you get 200 different people for that test audience. They're going to come out with 200 different.
Absolutely.
Or they're going to come out with
so it becomes a Rorschach test whereby the studio can find whatever it wants in the audience reaction.
Exactly.
It can find confirmation of its own pre-existing opinions. It
just powerfully misunderstands the way
just like focus groups in politics, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It powerfully misunderstands the way human beings operate, doesn't it? I mean, human beings can say something and not mean it.
Absolutely.
They can say something and not understand what they're saying. I mean, I always look at the reactions to Ghostwatch, which we've also discussed, where people were saying they were complaining because they said they were afraid of it, which, okay, maybe they were on one level, but that's not why they reacted so strongly. They reacted so strongly because they felt insulted. They felt undermined. Their relationship to their media had been called into question. And
of course, if you put in
let me get this straight. It's Halloween, and you tuned into Halloween night television called Ghostwatch, and you're complaining because you were scared. No.
I call bullshit.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's it, isn't it? Because if you set, if a test audience goes in, they cannot escape from the fact that what they are is a test audience. It's not an audience that go in there and then it's sprung on them later.
Yeah.
And, we took your opinion. We listened into your chat to each other, and that built our consensus. No, and we all do the same. Say, oh, well, oh right, well, I'm been brought in to fulfill a certain role, so I'm going to fulfill it a certain way.
Right.
You already become somewhat dishonest.
Exactly. If this were a psychological experiment, then its findings would be thrown out. They would not be published. They'd be inadmissible
Well, look,
because you've already placed the subjects in a synthetic situation
Yeah.
where their responses are prejudiced. They're informed,
we're all
right?
context dependent all the time. I can only speak for myself, but I suspect you guys will agree with me. When I watch a film in preparation for recording an episode of this podcast with you, I watch it in a completely different frame of mind to how I watch it under normal circumstances.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you're looking, aren't you? You're intent. You're looking for things. You are picking apart. You're analyzing on a much more intense level.
And
also,
one thing we know sadly about people is that they are very susceptible to going along with the viewpoint of powerful people and powerful structures around them.
Absolutely. Well, look at the pack mentality.
It's one of our flaws as a species.
Yeah.
The pack mentality of critics, as we described way back on Fire Walk with Me. The same critics coming out years later going, oh yeah, I was wrong about that film. That film I gave 1 star to, I now think deserves 5.
Oh, absolutely.
So, whoa, that's hell of a leap.
And this is a really good example of that, because this film was excoriated on original release. I mean, it was absolutely destroyed on original release, and it only found its cultish fan base on VHS later.
Well, it's kind of lucky for a generation of young people, I think, that happened, because certainly I first became aware of this film as a sort of totemic presence of terror, of foreboding, through seeing the posters in VHS rental shops and seeing the cover of the VHS rental, that amazing cover with I think it's Norris's, the copy of Norris's distorted face screeching, and the tagline, what is it, man is the warmest place to hide, or something. It's that became sort of, for a few years as a kid, that became like nightmare fuel for me, years before I would eventually see the film almost by chance, because it just happened to be on TV one night.
Do you know its other tagline, the one before it was "Man is the warmest place to hide," which is a fantastic tagline.
It's a good one. I like that.
Its other tagline, not as good but quite funny. The Thing, anywhere, anyhow, anyone.
Trouble is, that sounds like Martini, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was going to say that sounds like a different type of film.
But it's like it's playing on a like a box of chocolates, an ad for a box of chocolates or something.
That almost is the old Martini tagline, because that was anytime, any place, anywhere.
Yes, you're right. That's probably what I'm thinking of.
That's probably why they changed it, actually.
Probably is, yeah.
Quite funny. But it's a riff.
It's Thing Time.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well remembered.
Oh my god.
No, because the thing that makes me always remember that advertising tagline is that it's so annoying, because anytime, any place, anywhere is a fucking tautology. Any place and anywhere are the same
anywhere
thing.
The same, yeah.
And also, I mean, tell it to the judge when you're arrested for drink driving.
No, I wish they'd sort of emphasized the screenplay and used the tagline, "The play's the thing."
Okay, that beats all your puns.
Well, that bombed.
Last week. I like that. I like that so much.
I amuse myself, and that's all that matters.
That's what matters. That's absolutely
what
matters.
No, that actually genuinely tickled me. That's great.
I mean, like, on the level of amusement, I mean, my God, this film is probably the most watchable of all of the films we've ever done, isn't it?
Yeah, and
it's just so goddamn entertaining. Again, anytime,
gross
any place,
it is.
Yeah, anywhere. It's one of those films. It's a bit like In the Mouth of Madness. I could watch this film anytime and love it. Love every moment of it.
Well, I have this weird. I've always had this, and I have no idea why, but I've always had this liking for stories about disparate groups of people who don't really have any inherent relationship to each other, who are staying together in a place where none of them lives.
Oh,
I
so
love
like
stories like
the
that.
Murder She Wrote thing or the Miss Marple thing, yeah.
Well, I mean, I
Not
mentioned
quite that, yeah.
I mentioned this in the back channel. One of my favorite novels is Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None, which isn't a
Yeah.
controversial idea. It's her biggest selling book. It's a
Right.
very, very popular novel. But I think it's a book that I don't think people quite get how fucking weird that
Oh,
book
Yeah.
is. The minute you subject it to, I did a whole podcast about this with David Fagiani, actually, on his Scapegoat podcast. That is such a strange book. It's bonkers. It's absolutely crazy. And it's kind of, it's pretending to be a whodunit,
Yeah.
or a mystery story or whatever. Whereas it's actually, I think, better understood as a surreal gothic horror.
Yeah.
And I mean, I mentioned it in the back channel because I was talking about the thing we've already mentioned about how the thing is kind of, in its dramatic structure, it's kind of a whodunit, but with the denouement missing. And you can do that with And Then There Were None. The denouement is literally the last chapter, and it makes no sense whatsoever, and it's completely detached from the rest of the book, so you can just chop it off. And what you have then, essentially, instead of something that's pretending to be a mystery story, is a ghost story. But it's a perfect example because it's a group of people, 10 people in this case, who they don't know each other, they're complete strangers, and they're just brought to this house on this island. And I've always loved stories like that. I've always been fascinated.
Explicitly,
So the thing is an example of that kind of story. I could just watch stories like that forever. And it's the interrelationships and the characterization that draws you in. It's so involving to be inside this group of people.
It's what Shirley Jackson does in The Haunting of Hill House, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's another one. Yeah.
It's how they all.
It's a brilliant. It's just a brilliant framing. It's a brilliant framing device because the fun of it. I mean, story. It's the Stephen King thing, isn't it? Stephen King always says story occurs when characters interact. That's it.
Character meets situation.
Character meets situation. Yeah, that's it. And that's this film to a T, isn't it?
Yeah, and he did. Carpenter was explicit about, And Then There Were None. He did say that for him it was
like a core text,
absolutely an influence on his way of thinking. Even though Lancaster wrote the screenplay, which in itself was unusual for Carpenter because he likes to.
He usually likes to pen them himself, doesn't he?
But because he nearly turned this down, he said,
"Can you imagine?"
He said he really wasn't that interested. He was more interested in doing Firestarter. Ironically, the film he was kicked off because the thing flopped. He didn't get to do it, and then it just got made into a TV movie when it was meant to be a big screen thing, which he was going to, because he was going to be their golden boy until thing flopped. And he said the big draw. Because he loved The Thing from Another World as growing up as a kid.
Yeah, it's one of his favorites.
It had been in Halloween. It had been Halloween. He said, but the main thing that drew him was the initial screenplay, the treatment was just the sheer levels of paranoia. He said, I was really drawn to the paranoia. He said, but I'm perfectly happy to let Lancaster do the screenplay and perfectly happy with what he provided come the end. I mean, it's a good screenplay, and reading about Lancaster's approach to it is very interesting in and of itself. How he got sort of all caught up in it, and but
I think it's a genius screenplay.
Oh, it is beautiful.
As I say,
it's
it does.
Beautiful. It's so pared down. It's there's not an ounce of fat in this,
and it's so full of details that don't make sense. Without making the narrative incoherent. That's the genius of it. The narrative is completely coherent, but it's full of details and events that it's impossible for you to understand as part of a story. The full mechanism. It's not that the story doesn't make sense. It's that the sense of the story is always out of view. You never know the mechanisms whereby it makes sense.
And as a result of that, it draws you closer, doesn't it? It forces you to engage.
Absolutely.
You become so intensely part of this experience. So,
and it also means that basically anything could happen at any moment as well. You realise that at a certain point. You realise that all bets are off.
There is a real joy in watching this with someone who's never seen it before.
Oh yeah,
doesn't know about it. There is a sincere, because their reactions are insane. Always.
But also,
Always.
it's just the thought that Carpenter goes through, because by this time Halloween obviously was the film that got him noticed by the big studios, and Halloween very quickly got into the fabric of the genres of films that came subsequently, very, very quickly. So he goes against an awful lot of the logic of Halloween in this film. So he deliberately has almost no jump scares. The only time that there is a proper bona fide jump scare is the scene with the paddles, and he said, and that really was Rob Bottin said to him one day.
There is one.
Wouldn't it be really
when Fuchs is in his office and you see a figure go by and you get the orchestra sting? That's kind of a jump scare.
It can make you jump, but it's not like a kind of in your face like moment of horror. He said, Rob Bottin basically said, "Oh, I could arrange it so the torso becomes a giant mouth," and Carpenter went, "Really?" And okay then. He said,
"Of course."
Really wrote that on the hoof.
Why not? Right?
But it was things like putting the creature in light rather than in shadow to let everyone see it. But I think
that's kind of revolutionary, right?
Yeah. And of course, the other thing that I think serves the film very well is the moments he said, "Look, we haven't got the time for that. Let's not do it." So there was going to be a sequence with Bennings before they hit upon the idea of just the sort of the partly transformed hands and then stumbling out into the snow and everything. They had this idea that he was going to sort of literally pop up through the ice, crash up through the ice, and then pop almost like a kind of whack-a-mole, and then pop up in a different place, and then go away and like rear up over people and everything. And Carpenter said, "No, the sequence had been methodically worked out, and it was going to be a very impressive set piece." He said, "No, it's too much. Let's pull back from that." And apparently, and again, as with the final sequence with the stop motion, he was like, "No, we'll just do that fleetingly." It was a big sequence, and Bottin had worked out a whole perspective set for it and everything. It's the willingness to say to people, "Let me see it. I'm terribly sorry, I'm not going to put it in the film." And for reasons of a particular vision, for a particular aesthetic,
and the tone and whatnot. It's brilliant.
The less is more thing. I think he has a very good idea of that'll look impressive, but what that will look is impressive. Is it serving the story? Is it
serving the story? And does it feed into the ethos of the thing? No, not really.
And he said, whereas the sequence with with Norris's heart attack and the giant mouth, and then right up to it's the head splitting off, and he said that sequence will stay in the memory because it's the biggest sequence of its kind.
It's the big special
and the rest
effects
of it
sequence,
just. It's just character and people in rooms talking and cameras traveling down passageways. He said, if you overload a film with that kind of thing, it's not going to work.
You get a kind of, ironically, kind of a snow blindness thing, don't you? Where it's just too much and you switch off. You reach a peak and you switch off. But my God, that head coming off, and it shows you every goddamn moment of that head stretching and all the weird internal ligaments and tendrils and the fluid that bubbles up from inside. It's fucking...
But it's the animatronic face that gets me. The expressions on the animatronic face are so incredibly realistic.
Yeah.
But especially the way it's shot, the way it sort of bends sideways over the table, and you get that shot of it from below. When it's doing that, you think... that just looks like a human face. It just does.
Yeah. And Rob Bottin said Carpenter's very good at judging how. He said because initially when the chest opened and the face on all the sort of sinew and everything rushes up to the ceiling, he said I had an awful lot of compressed goo and fluids like rushed out with it, and it was an expensive thing to shoot. And he said, and Carpenter said, the problem is, he said, on some level, people are going to think, oh, it's like a water feature at some kind of...
Right.
He said, bring that fluid back to almost nothing. And of course, Rob Bottin's like, but logically, there would be a lot of fluid. He said, I know logically there would be. He said, but I don't want the audience at any point to compare it to something banal,
or like a water feature
to start
or something,
to giggle. See, we can't have giggling.
he was thinking about the effects to that depth, where he was even looking at them in associative terms. What are people going to associate with this? What
Yeah.
emotional reaction is this going to evoke? Brilliant. I mean, my
So saying to
God.
Rob Bottin, you're biologically correct. There would
Yes.
be a lot of blood and fluid. He said, but we can't show that much because he said there's just something about that image where people will start to titter.
Yeah. My
You've
God.
got
And
that-
you obviously you don't want that in that sequence, because that is your special effects denouement, isn't it? That's the big one, right? That's what you want, yeah?
That creates
awesome.
a weird effect, because there are sequences with an awful lot of blood. The
Yes.
Bennings transformation has a lot of blood, and of course the Palmer transformation, his head sort of
The
basically
dog
turns
transformation has a lot of fluid, doesn't it?
Yeah, but a lot of the creature effects, they're strangely dry. Like when Norris's chest opens and you see all the teeth, basically teeth inside, and there is something very disturbing about how dry it is. And then when the head comes off, it's like the body has been desiccated from within.
Yes.
Yeah, bits of it have been absorbed.
There is something about that that's deeply, deeply uncanny.
Yeah, and
about
that's
the absence
that
of
all
blood,
comes from
about the
Carpenter.
absence of the fluids that you would expect when a body opens.
Because Bottin definitely had those things there. It was Carpenter who said, no, let's pull back on that. And it does create such an uncanny visual.
Yeah, it makes it more alien.
It defies your logic, of what should happen. But of course, his point of view was, I don't want anyone laughing.
Yeah.
I want them shit
Understandable.
You remember last time when I talked about the end of The Fly and that feeling of just mounting disbelief, and then you get to the bit where it fuses Brundlefly with the telepod, and this thing comes out, and it's just this sort of mess of body and bits of machinery, and it's that feeling of, oh my God, what next?
What next? Where can this go?
You get that with this as well. And the bit for me, as I say, I watched this almost by chance because it happened to be on TV one night, and my jaw was on the floor because I had no idea what to expect. And that sequence, of course, everybody who sees that for the first time has the same reaction. But it's when the head sprouts the spider legs, and you get this feeling like, oh, what the fuck is what?
Yeah. I find I laugh, but it's not because I find it risible. It's a kind of release valve. I reach a point.
It's kind of nervous laughter.
Yes, it's incredulity as well. It's like, I can't believe this. This is insane. It's brilliant. It's so brilliantly done. I just can't contain it. I can't express it in any other way.
And to think so much of this is predicated, the plot, I mean, the situation they end up in, because no one stops to consider the full context of what's happening, why those people are chasing that dog, because it seems absurd anyway. No one stops to think that dog's got rabies. That's why they're doing it, or it's infected, or whatever. And Gary just takes out the window and shoots the guy in the head, and it's like, no one just took a moment. No one took a moment. And you've got obviously linked into that Cold War paranoia. The guy might as well be speaking Russian, even though he's speaking Norwegian. As far as they're concerned, they're all in these sort of sensitively placed research situations. But it's like, no, because the first thing I think, well, how do they know that dog hasn't got rabies? If we're just going to bring it down to earth for a moment, it's like no one was. It's like shoot first, question later. But of course, that then starts to feel like satire. To the whole kind of rugged frontiersman theme. It's like no one has stopped to talk. No one has stopped.
Well, they're real Americans about it, aren't they? Because they immediately start calling them Swedes and start calling them crazy.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's all there. All the incipient racism, all the Cold War paranoia.
Doesn't someone even say
all the manifest destiny?
Doesn't someone even say, "Aren't we at war? Are we at war with Norway now?"
I think that's Knowles.
Yeah, Knowles does say that. So
and you think just for the sake of a moment, going right? Can we just translate what they're saying? Or
But I mean, it's a slightly surreal sequence, isn't it? I mean, you even get them throwing grenades at the dog.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. It seems like such overkill, doesn't it?
Yeah, because from an acting point of view, I think the actor who plays Clark was up for a different role, a more substantial role, and he said, "I really want to play Clark," and they went, "It's a bit of a thankless choice." No, I already like dogs, so I'm
Yeah.
like going to be happy hanging around with the Huskies, but I've got an idea how to play this. And
Okay.
Clark is a very, very peculiar character.
He is, isn't he? He's very
He's like the
isolated.
camp loner, isn't he? And
Yeah,
he's the,
you get the impression that he doesn't do well with people.
yeah, and so he had this whole idea, the actor, about this is why this guy hangs around with dogs, and of course it will suggest something that will ultimately lead him into trouble, which is he's so disconnected, he's so a pariah that he's created his own pariah state. Really, he's not that he's going to be very easy to be suspicious of, and of course the irony,
which he is, of course. I mean that doesn't McCready say like be careful of him at various points, and of course it turns out that
of course McCready shoots him in the head.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah,
that hair trigger moment, which reflects the initial problem.
McCready is going by Blair's judgment.
That's right.
McCready suspects Clark because Blair suspects Clark.
Yeah. And also, I mean, it is logical.
Clark
it's logical as well because the dog goes right up to him at the beginning and even like jumps up him and licks him, I believe. So if this thing is transmitted,
well, I wondered exactly.
It's logical to assume
it's the incubation period because the
thing is
we don't know that Clark isn't infected. It just might not be.
Right.
Exactly. Shooting him in the head might just, the body is dead before the trigger mechanism is activated.
Yeah. It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Because you can't help but notice all the way through the film, and particularly from our vantage point now, where we've got 50 years or 45 years extra knowledge about these things. Don't put the end of that pen in your mouth. Don't share that joint. No,
there are.
He's
I only
literally
noticed,
prodding the carcass, and then starts tapping his mouth with the. It's like, no!
When Blair's doing the autopsy, and he's only got
like
those
Vicky
flimsy.
He's got those flimsy rubber.
Yeah. He's got this flimsy rubber gloves, and he's reaching directly inside this thing. So
he's not even wearing a mask.
No,
or anything.
And it's like, oh my god! I mean, like you must be infected.
But it feels less a mistake, where more this kind of plot, but this character point about again the sort of rugged frontiersman thing. We're okay. We're okay. You just got to get in there and do it. No faffing about. Just get it. It's part of their MO.
Yeah.
There's this bit where Fuchs says to Mac at one point, I've been thinking maybe just a particle of this is enough to infect somebody, so we should eat out of cans and prepare our own food. And I whenever I hear that, I think if this thing spreads via particles,
then it doesn't matter.
The ship has sailed, guys. You're all fucked.
You're all done. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't worry about it anymore.
It says 75% for a reason.
I mean, ambient in this entire subtext is AIDS, obviously.
Of course,
that's another thing. That's, I mean, I know. Carpenter has said that it wasn't consciously about that, but he's also said that it was definitely in the air. We knew about it, and
unlike Cronenberg, he's not tried to sort of take that narrative reading away. He's been
he's been quite like, absolutely. It's part and parcel, isn't it?
Yeah,
of course, yeah. I mean, as I say, there's a great big STDs poster on the wall.
It's
during the blood test.
They do a blood test, right? They do a blood test to see who's infected.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And of course, this is part of the Apocalypse trilogy. I mean, that it's embedded in. Well, I know he will retroactively make this Prince of Darkness and
In the Mouth of Madness.
In the Mouth of Madness, part of that. But the idea of being taken out by disease, and certainly, with AIDS, because it, that you can understand how that panic was ripe for something.
Of course.
But again, this ties in with the reading of this as being sort of about colonialism, American expansion, manifest destiny. Because one of the big side effects of European incursion and expansion across, arrival in the New World and then expansion across it, was that peoples that had lived there for hundreds of thousands of years, who had no or very little contact, at any rate, with Europeans, had built up no immunity whatsoever to European diseases like smallpox. It's part of why millions of them died. And this is a story about people on a continent where they've sort of planted a flag and an outpost. It's inherently about expansion into new territory. As I say, it's subtextually, it's very much a frontier's tale, and it's about people coming into contact with literally a life form that works essentially like a pathogen from a different biosphere. So there's a subtext there about, a kind of a literal apocalypse, the apocalypse of settler colonialism, as it's been called.
In more recent terms, of course, we have respiratory pandemics like COVID, which have been inevitable, by the way, since the advent of mass travel, which is obviously a very capitalist thing. There have been medical think tanks saying for decades, like since the advent of commercial air travel, that a respiratory pandemic is inevitable now.
COVID happened partly because of our completely reckless expansion across the planet and into biospheres where we have no business at all. It probably started with a zoonotic virus jumping from a bat to a pangolin, and then being in a market in China somewhere. And it's because we spread out into these rainforests and jungles, and we just treat them as places where we have every right to stomp around and to use and assimilate and absorb and replicate and expand and accumulate like the thing in this story.
This is it, right?
And,
this is it.
It leads to this
where everything is treated as a resource, right, as something to be consumed.
Yeah, which is kind of inherent in the Darwinian metaphor, as seen through the lens of the ascendancy of the market and market relations and industrial capitalism. Which again it's why this idea has been in science fiction right from the start. Wells was doing versions of this story. The Martian conquest is partly a biological conquest in War of the Worlds.
In War of the
Red
Worlds,
Weed.
Of course,
stuff.
and what
But
are
they
they defeated by ultimately? By a virus,
by
the little things.
A coronavirus.
Literally by a coronavirus,
And a genuine speculation, of course, with the melting of the ice caps, the melting of the glaciers that we've caused through industrial capitalism, warming the planet, is that potentially life forms, maybe even pathogens that were frozen in the ice millions of years ago, might thaw out and spread and kill us all.
This is very much a thing with
this is a genuine concern.
This is very much a thing with deforestation, isn't it? You churning up the undisturbed soils releases all sorts into the air.
Well, there are still some relatively untouched, hunter-gatherer peoples out there in some of these. We should just be leaving them alone.
Leave them alone. Yeah,
we are not leaving them alone. We're destroying their habitat, and we are bringing them into contact not only with our literal viruses, but the virus of our culture as well.
On a sort of more prosaic level, what's happening with the destruction of the natural habitats of animals is that a lot of very dangerous animals are moving into more urban areas or suburban areas. So, like in Brazil, for example, because of the destruction of the rainforests there for obviously capitalist reasons, things like the Brazilian wandering spider, most dangerous spider in the world, is now moving more into suburban and urban areas and is encountered more, and it's killing way more people than it ever did before.
It's such an irony, is it, that the sort of the ultimate corporation now is called Amazon. It's all because the Amazon is it's they're the lungs of the planet, the rainforests, and we're
bad
destroying
joke,
them.
that, isn't it? It's a bad joke. That's
somebody once called killing a whale to get blubber and the other commodities that we get from whales. Somebody once called that unraveling the Bayeux tapestry in order to get a roll of cotton. And that's what we're doing.
That's exactly it. That's exactly
to the planet.
We have this perfect biosphere potentially, and what are we doing with it? Utterly killing it, we're utterly destroying it for nothing, for fucking nothing.
Well, that's really it sounds a bit trite, to be honest, when you put it in these terms, but that's really what the thing is. There's a reason that the thing looks like us and acts like us and thinks that it is us. It's because it is us. That's what the thing. We are the thing. We are the endlessly sort of spreading, contaminating, accumulating, absorbing, assimilating, destroying organism that just spreads and spreads and spreads and
with no purpose,
annihilates everything in its path in
Well, I
its
mean,
just quest to constantly expand.
yes, I think one of the questions this film begs is like, what happens if the thing does get away, if it gets into civilized areas, if it spreads? Because I mean, Blair puts this into the computer, doesn't he? And it extrapolates that I think it's 27,000 days or something like that. That's how long it'll take for the whole of the human population to be infected by this thing. What happens then? Because it doesn't have anything to do then. You know, it doesn't have any vision. It doesn't have any. Would it create like a perfect biosphere or something? I doubt it.
After that process is complete, what would be the difference? I mean, it takes me back to this thing that lies unspoken in one of the source texts for this, Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness, which you and I just talked about, George, which is the unspoken implication that the human race might actually just be Shoggoths, because the Shoggoths are specifically shapeshifters. And they went somewhere, or most of them did anyway, and maybe that's what the human race is. Maybe the human race is just one relatively stable form of Shoggoth, and that's sort of the vehicle for the ultimate pessimism of that story, because the Shoggoth, as well as several other things that it represents, it represents this kind of death drive in civilization, doesn't it? This imperative to destroy everything that is created.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers has the sort of same telos, really, doesn't it?
It does, very much.
You come to the end of it and everyone's fallen asleep and woken up a pod person. Well, what's actually changed?
What has changed?
You know, it's only the threads of or the illusion of identity that we're all hanging on to. But even when the pod people manifest, they've got everything that the if you like, the original, the duplicate had anyway. So. And everyone else is the same, so
I suppose. And in that film, I mean, that film goes out of its way to draw the parallel between the weird behavior of the people who are infected or replaced and are spreading the replacement. It goes out of its way to draw the parallel between them and the society that they are expanding into, doesn't it? That's kind of what the film's about. It's kind of about the fact that people now live in this weird, alienated pseudo society full of strangers that they can't communicate with and don't really feel things anymore. That's part of the film.
I suppose if you are going to continue this story, if you are going to do another film or a sequel, then that's what you do, right? That's how you that's what you explore. How this thing operates in a wider with a wider field of biological hosts.
My sequel would be set in the present day, 45 years after the events that took place on that camp in Antarctica in 1982, and it would be, I don't know exactly what the plot would be, but the end of the film would be the central character or whoever realizing, oh, hang on a minute, we were all replaced.
We were all
years
replaced.
Ago. We're all these things.
Yeah.
And all it takes is some sort of trigger to cause any one of us to explode into this mass of feelers and spiders' legs and tentacles at any given moment.
I like it. I like it a lot.
And of course, inevitably, it taps into the conundrum of ourselves anyway as individuals. It's, well, hang on a moment, I'm made up of, this genetic material from two other people, which is made up of genetic material from other people again before them, and other people again. And there's an evolutionary line that links down to me, and how much of my, is consciousness even a thing, and how much of my consciousness is me, and how much
is
of my
identity,
it's my environment or my parents or ideology or
it is definitely one of the.
Am I even here? Am I even a thing?
It's one of the thornier themes that's thrown up by this film. Like, what are we? What is our consciousness?
The idea of
does it take?
Being a discrete entity with cause and effect thinking. Well, not necessarily. There's no proof of that, Right. There's a wonderful book by Steve Rose called The 21st Century Brain, where the first half of it is basically just him saying about this notion of something called consciousness, which he said I'm guilty of. He said because I had an earlier book which was called the conscious brain. He said, so I've added to the problem. He said, it's a complete metaphor. The idea of consciousness is some kind of spark, some kind of state. We have no idea that that's none at all.
Nope.
What is I can't define it. I'm a neurobiologist. I have no idea what. No. You might as well talk about the soul.
Yeah. It is essentially the secular notion of the soul.
Yeah.
There's no consensus in psychology. There's absolutely none whatsoever. And as you say, in
neurobiology
either. So in the brute mechanics of it, there's no. You can't identify the part of the brain where
you can no more.
Sits,
locate consciousness as you could, as I said, spiritually, the soul.
Right. I mean, it gets even worse when you start looking at what some quantum physicists say about continuity and whatnot. And oh my God, then it gets into realms of insanity where even that, our state as temporal beings moving from cause to effect through time might even itself be a complete illusion.
Yeah.
Then it gets really problematic.
Whatever it is, consciousness is very clearly just something that matter does. That's
right.
In a certain form of organization, consciousness is something that matter does.
Matter does. You're right. It's something that it kind of evolves towards or evolves into.
Yeah.
Whatever that.
And
means.
it is like a complex series of illusions.
Yeah.
The question is really, who is experiencing the illusions, or what is
right? So it's
the
David Lynch thing. Who is the dreamer, right?
Yeah, and the worrying probability seems to be that there is no definable subject who is experiencing the network of illusions. The self just is the network of illusions.
Yes.
There is there is nobody watching the screen onto which
There's
things
no
are being projected. Yeah. Consciousness just is the screen. That's it.
Yeah. Wow.
It seems very important to us, but that's only because we're in it.
That's yes, it's because we rely on it, isn't it? It's because we have no other frame of reference. That's our experience of existence.
Yeah,
it really is the puddle thinking, wow, this is an amazing hole. It fits me exactly. It must be
right.
Yeah, and that paradox of being in society, of having that links to each other and yet being sort of separated off from each other as well by our own bodies.
It is one of the great evils of our conditions, isn't it? It's one of the great torments of being, for want of a better term, a conscious entity trapped within our own skulls. We can never, ever, ever have our mind bleed into another mind and see how it perceives or how it actually operates. The best we get a Vega is through cues and through language and expression and whatnot, which is imperfect. It's completely imperfect.
Yeah.
We are always alone. I mean, that's the terrible thing about our conditions, isn't it? Ultimately, we are alone in our own skulls, and we will always be alone in our own skulls, no matter where we are or who we're with.
We're always alone, so to speak, with the same person.
The same person, driving ourselves completely fucking mad.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I am doomed to spend the entirety of my life with Jack Graham. There's just no. That's it.
We go through these extraordinary lengths to distract
which
actually ties us into something in this film that I noticed this time round, which is the extraordinary presence of mind-altering substances in this film, because people are drinking booze and smoking spliffs all the way through this film.
All the way through.
The amount of booze and boozing and drunkenness in this film is kind of deceptive, because there's so much going on in it you kind of don't realize. But Blair's fit of trying to just smash the place up, he's obviously acting on conclusions that he's drawn, but he's also acting on the fact that he is absolutely pissed out of his mind on vodka.
Drunk.
He is steamed completely. And Mac, of course, is drinking the first time we see him.
Yeah, pretty much all throughout the film.
Palmer, up to a certain point, is never not lighting a spliff or smoking a spliff. And I can't help noticing that there's there's a pattern, which is that you don't seem to get got as long as you're drinking
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's
or smoking,
interesting. That's
because there's a certain,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, Mac seems, I mean, this is why the last scenes, my suspicion is that Mac and Childs are just who they are. They're
Yeah.
just Mac and Childs. I think they are, because they both take a drink. I think that's what Mac's smile at the end is about, because he offers the drink to Childs and Childs takes it.
Yeah.
And I think Mac's smile is, okay, you're Childs. Because I think the thing is kind of, I don't know what the mechanism is, but it's kind of repelled by or antagonistic to or can't be present at the same time as some sort of mind-altering substance that takes you out of yourself.
Interesting.
Max stops drinking at a certain stage, and then he starts again at the very end. And Palmer gets to a certain point where he's constantly stoned, and then he stops.
Yeah, and yes, and I think thematically it makes it's just better for it to be Giles and Mac anyway, because then the whole thing is about we are human, and how far can we now trust each other, knowing and given their history of antagonism as well as two characters, that the idea that they've got that, we've got to spend our last few hours, what do we spend our last 2 hours being? Just trusting each other and being human,
just being human,
paranoid,
just being here,
because we're going to die anyway. The only thing, but again, being the kind of film it is, it constantly throws these things into doubt, because in addition to, it is possible to read the passing of the bottle to Childs as he's happily drinking this. He's not obeying the notion that we shouldn't exchange bodily fluids because my saliva's on it. Therefore, is he the thing because he's not registering this? And there's also a scene earlier in the film which I thought, oh, hang on, that's interesting, where Macready, again, it's always Mac, leaves the vodka for Blair, who looks at it, and again, it's very hard to ascertain the intention behind this. Is he looking at it going, oh, last time I went absolutely loopy when I drank all that and sabotaged the place? Or is he looking at it going, why have you given me something that's already half empty and therefore has got other people's bodily fluids in?
Potentially contaminated.
Or is he by that point a copy? And is there something about
can't drink it?
And therefore can't drink it.
Yeah.
Because these substances, they kind of alienate you from the idea of a coherent self, don't they?
And he doesn't touch it. He doesn't, even when they've gone, he doesn't go and reach for it and like, oh, okay. He just looks at it suspiciously.
Yeah.
Or even fearfully. I don't know.
There's something in this film, I think, deeply supportive of the idea of losing yourself in some form of sort of experience that destabilizes the self, that destabilizes the idea of the self as a coherent whole.
And it's like it can't cope with that.
Yes, it's like it relies upon
it can't copy that.
Yes.
What it can copy,
right?
Yeah, it can copy the coherent, seeming, literal idea. It can copy the idea of the human being, our normal idea of ourselves as a coherent thing. The minute we get wasted on booze or weed, we lose that.
So what it's doing is what the transporter does in The Fly, right? With the computer's limited understanding, it's giving an impression. It's recreating an impression based upon its limitations. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And again, linking back to what we were saying a little bit ago about consciousness and ourselves. What is ourselves? Human beings, like a lot of mammals, so driven to get out of our skulls, driven to be distracted using psychotropic drugs.
It's kind of what we spend our lives doing, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's what we spend our lives doing.
Give me some downers. Give me an altered state. Yeah.
But it's kind of, we do that because we kind of don't want to be trapped alone with the same guy for a few hours, We don't want to be subject to the slavery of that idea of the coherent limited self. We want to have that degree of sort of constructive alienation from the idea of the self. Because that's deeply enjoyable. That's why people do that.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
escape from the tyranny of the self is why people get wasted, why people take marijuana, and so on and so forth.
Or even if you're not going down that route, even just trying to imaginatively project oneself into fiction.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes.
Or even on a
And
very base level, it's exposing yourself to social media and to memes and whatnot. It gives you the dopamine hit, doesn't it?
yeah, but if the copy is unable to, if it's unable to experience the self, essentially, if it's not so much that you're a copy and you don't know it, but that as a copy you are just a perfect mimic, you are just a perfect copy, down to all the behavioral mannerisms, the speech patterns, the facial expressions, everything that the original would make under every circumstance. But there's nothing actually in there,
Yeah.
if you know what I
So,
mean. It is
there's
literally
no
just,
content, yeah.
it is
It's the
just
shape
the
of you.
copy.
It's the impression
It
of
wouldn't,
you, isn't it?
it would have to do that, wouldn't it? Because it wouldn't be it would, anything short of that, and it would just not be a good copy.
Right,
But if it is a
yes.
good copy, if it is, again, like with The Fly, the horror is the idea of the human being reduced completely to information. There's nothing but information.
Yes.
And the ability to copy perfectly is just actually, what it actually is just the ability to create the perfect mimic from the information. But it does, as with The Fly, rejecting the innermost idea of sort of dualism, mind and body.
Cartesian.
The body is what generates the self, but the body as just information doesn't do it. So the copy can't actually generate all the information. It can only generate the information that makes the copy look realistic.
Yes, yeah.
And
For as
the
long as it
presence of
requires,
substances like booze or weed is kind of the giveaway, isn't it?
It's the
because it can't. Yeah, it can't copy the destabilization of the perfect information.
Right. Yeah, and if it's recreating you when you're in an altered state of mind, then it's inherently unstabilized, isn't it? It
Yeah.
may assume, or it may not be able to replicate the sober version of you, and
Well, the
therefore it
copy
will
just
always
sort
be
of
distorted. It will always be a problem.
the copy just looks at something that's going to do that and thinks, no, that's a
No.
threat.
Yeah.
That's a threat to my coherence as a copy.
Yeah.
And there's even a suggestion, perhaps a slight suggestion, that the ultimate in the film, the ultimate change of state, is the point where you go, Macready says, we're not coming out of this alive, and then they all start working together, knowing that it's terminal for them to defeat. And it strikes me as at that point they're in a different state of mind. That the thing no longer absorbs them; it just gets rid of them. It seems like Gary just gets killed and carted off. Knowles disappears. So suddenly the idea of because in a sense, again, they've left behind something that it recognizes as being part of the human condition, because we must enter a very different mode if we know we know for certain we're going to die prematurely, and then start acting in ways that don't conform to our typical ways of acting. They're all working very hard towards their own end in that.
It's the shedding of the self again, isn't it?
It's the shedding of the self.
There is a sort of existential evolution there, isn't there? It's almost Zen. They're putting aside they're putting aside attachment.
So when Blair confronts Gary, he doesn't alter. He just sort of turns him into a sack of rubbish, which he pulls along behind him. He just gets rid of it. And heaven only knows what happens to Knowles.
He has no value at that point, right?
Yeah,
but the thing as predatory pattern, as capital or natural selection or whatever, it just is pure survival, isn't it? It's just pure self-replication, self-transmission down the generations. That's its entire purpose. It's just to keep existing.
It's very like cancer or syphilis or whatever in that regard, isn't it?
The annihilation.
We're faced with ourselves, really, aren't we? We're faced with basically the sordid truth of our own existence.
One truth about it The other truth about us is that we do things to annihilate the self
Yes.
that prizes itself and its self-preservation of preservation above all other things.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, get wasted and ultimately accept the idea of self-destruction for for the wider social group, which is what those. And it's interesting that it's, apart from Mac, it's probably the two most unlikely candidates as well. If right back at the start, you say, which of these men would you say is likely to sort of sacrifice their lives for the good of humanity, you probably wouldn't pick Gary and Knowles.
No, probably not.
But it is
Probably
them.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like the thing literally cannot assimilate anything that isn't based upon a fundamentally egotistic
Yeah.
idea of the self, of the coherent self, of the self as a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
And on that note, I have to say, I'm about to be picked off. I'm going to be the first one.
You're going to be the first to be absorbed.
I was cocooned last time by an alien, and now I'm going to be picked off by the thing. Because
I think
that's the price I have
head's
to pay for
gonna
getting up at
tear off
5:30.
I was going to say I'll split in two and start sprouting teeth and tendrils and whatnot. Fun.
My doggy is looking at me very strangely.
Uh-huh.
But as ever, it has been a pleasure. I look forward to
Always.
hearing what you say in the next episode.
I think we've pretty much done, haven't we, Jack, at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. I think we've pretty much done.
It's like the film. It's taut. It's lean. And
For
it's
us,
made
anyway,
point.
it's taut.
Yeah.
For us, this isn't bad, yeah. But then again, I think it's because this film, it's so clear in its ideas, isn't it? They're manifold and they are very, very deep and complex, but they're not overt, but they are there. It's so beautifully communicated.
Well, it's like a good piece of poetry, isn't it? It's the maximum amount of information in the smallest amount of words required, but full of ambiguity, full of ambiguity, irony, and
meaning.
It's beautiful,
and
full of macabre beauty.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing, right? The stuff that's regarded as horrific and visceral and vile in this film is also
strangely beautiful because there's artistry there.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
and strangeness and
craft,
the invention
weirdness
of it, the incredible invention. I mean, it's some of the monsters, the creatures, the entities. They're so metamorphic. They're so fluid and constantly changing in this film.
Same with. I mean, they make more of a kind of obvious statement with it, but it's the same with Giga. It's the same with Alien.
Yeah, very much.
It's the beauty of the monstrousness as well. It's the tantalizing strangeness.
Yeah.
What's exceptional about this is just the complete unrestrained unpredictability of what it does to bodies.
Yes.
Bodies split open to form flower shapes and shit tentacles and sprout spiders' legs and eye stalks and things. It's totally without any restraint.
Yeah. It's exuberant.
It just does things that you wouldn't think you could possibly do on screen.
Like mutating genes or cancerous cells.
It's anatomy just gone wild, isn't it? Without any restriction or
chests become gigantic jaws full of teeth, and it's almost like a child drawing pictures.
Yeah.
It's almost like what you do when you're a kid and you draw monsters, because then it's got a mouth that's 3 times the size of its abdomen, and it's got 17 eyes and things like that. It's almost like that. It's almost like a child's nightmarish monster figure.
Yeah.
And that makes it so effective, doesn't it? Because it hits something very deep within you, something really fundamental in your imagination.
That radical incoherence, isn't it? Because we are conditioned to think of the body as kind of an inherently coherent, rational thing.
Yes, anatomy has
centuries of ideology have tried to convince us of that, and it's not true. And this film kind of confronts us with the idea that the body is just inherently fucking crazy. It's a lunatic. Yeah. Having a body, every body is just this lunatic nonsense thing.
Mental, isn't it?
Because it is, it's cobbled together over millions of years of essentially improvised, opportunistic evolution. So
it's reliant upon entire subspecies of symbiotic microorganisms. It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
We're full of junk DNA that doesn't do anything.
We grow
tails in the womb. And, You know, a huge chunk of your field of vision is essentially your brain just hallucinating to fill in a
Yeah.
blind spot.
Flipping the vision
You know,
the right way up, so to speak.
Yeah,
you shit right next to where you have sex, and it's bonkers. The whole thing is bonkers.
the whole
It doesn't.
Or it's
nothing
rather
makes
like
sense.
the things that appear to be wonderfully elegant. It's like, oh, look at the flamingo, and it's like, yeah, because all the previous flamingos fucking drowned because they didn't have those legs.
Yeah,
And also, flamingos are fucking
died out.
bananas.
And then
Look at that thing; it's ridiculous.
Yeah. They selected to, it's worked out for that particular.
Yeah. Every single,
a lot of them drowned. a lot of them died.
every
out.
single beautiful flower bed you walk past, you're looking at a load of genitals.
Yeah.
You're looking at reproductive organs just sticking out at you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, it's got me leg, gents, so I'm going to be dragged off. I'm going to,
Well, if we see you again, we'll know it's not really you.
and we will know that it's not you. So,
but I must dash down these jewels. But it's been a pleasure.
Excellent. I will, by the way, Elliot, I'll put all relevant links down below, okay?
Well, there'll be links for me. I'm sure they'll be relevant, but there'll certainly be links. But thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And I look forward to hearing what we do next. Or I'll catch up with you on WhatsApp.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Take care, both.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, I think...
I feel like I am kind of done.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I think we've, drilled down deep into that one.
I want to mention a couple of things that are just interesting. I'd never noticed before, but on this rewatch, I noticed that Doc Copper has a nose ring.
Right? I just did not clock, and I've seen this film many times. But I just didn't notice.
What's that about?
I don't know, but it's very peculiar. It's very odd, and I can't imagine it's a metal nose ring in these kinds of temperatures. Not practical.
Not really, no.
No, if you go out for any particular amount of time when it's really freezing, that's a potential health risk, isn't it?
Yeah, that's not a good idea, really.
No, not really.
What else is there? Oh, I love that the song Knowles is listening to contains the lyrics, "The writings on the wall." I love that. And I love the motif of the computers, the way Blair's computer program of the infection mirrors Mac's chess wizard. I think that's great. As I say, I think that it's the same thing basically in different forms. As I say,
once again, it's the film prefiguring itself constantly, which you see all the way through. You see all the way through, and it's just so subtly and brilliantly done.
Yeah. I love the scene where Palmer spins his stupid, chariots of the gods, man.
Oh, yes, you actually get the ancient aliens theory coming through here, which again is that, that's brilliant. And of course, I mean, he's kind of a stoner, so you just accept it from him, don't you? Of course he believes
exactly,
this bullshit. Of course he believes this bullshit.
The silent disdain with which Childs treats that is wonderful.
Oh, he doesn't even respond, does he? Sort of
no.
Well,
Palmer's sort of beneath contempt to Childs, but his repeated sort of plaintive appeal to Blair, "Do you buy any of this voodoo bullshit?" And Blair just won't answer because he buys the whole thing.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? Because Childs comes across as like the dogged rationalist in this, like the dogmatic rationalist, the one who will not accept even the evidence of his own eyes.
Yeah. And the amazing corpse with the two faces blending into each other,
iconic,
and the way that is slowly revealed through partial shots, and
it's so
that's
brilliant.
Wonderful.
I mean, any of the sequences where they're doing the autopsies and and the reactions from Blair are brilliant.
Oh, Wilfred Brimley is brilliant in this.
So good.
He's so authentic.
Good. He sounds like he's about to vomit.
He does.
He really does. Which is understandable, given that he is actually handling real kidneys and real viscera at that point, which probably smells pretty goddamn bad.
I was going to say, I think a lot of that stuff he's slinging around is genuine offal.
It is actual offal. Yeah, they had buckets of it by all accounts, all over the place. Not a nice set to be on.
No. And I think that covers everything. So.
Brilliant.
Enjoyed watching this one again.
Yeah, oh my god, this film, it's one of my favorites. It is without a doubt one of my favorite films ever made. Put it on anytime, anywhere, and I'll be happy. I'll be very happy. What would you like to do next?
Oh, I think maybe we need to talk about this sort of in the WhatsApp, because I think
Yeah,
it gets a little bit complicated from here, doesn't it?
I think
We've
it
got a
does. We've
list
got many
of
ideas.
possibles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some of which veer off slightly into other realms and areas.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder if maybe, I mean, just a thought. I'm well into Cabal now, so I don't know if you fancied
Oh,
doing the sort of stop off with doing both book and film Cabal
oh,
slash Nightbreed.
love to.
Yeah. Well, we
Love
could
to.
pitch that
It's
to
a
Rob.
Barker, isn't it? Oh my God, are you kidding? I will talk about a Barker book and
Of
film any
course. Yeah.
day.
I didn't think you'd be reluctant, but
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind. I'm fine.
yeah. I shall be finishing the book any day now,
Mhm.
and I've acquired the director's cut of the movie. So I don't know.
Excellent.
It's not really in this set of themes,
No,
but we could do a little stop off on Nightbreed
yeah,
stroke Cabal.
I'm very happy to do take a slight turn here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll
Fantastic.
pitch
And
that to Rob and see
I
what he
haven't seen
thinks.
that film for a long time. So
I've never seen the director's cut either, so this will be interesting.
yeah, my God. Yeah, fascinated. Fascinated to see how it goes. And I haven't read Cabal
Okay.
for a long time either.
Well,
It's one of
that's my idea anyway. So
yeah, it's one of Barker's I probably read the least. I don't know why that is because I like it. I know I really enjoy it when I do read it. Um, so yeah, it's going to be fun going back.
it definitely reads like a sort of extra long book of blood, if you
Yeah,
know what I
very
mean,
much. Yeah, it's got
rather
connective
than
tissue to the books of blood, definitely.
yes. Although, again, having read Weave World and Imagica,
Hmm.
the seeds of what will turn up in those books is definitely in there very
Absolutely,
clearly.
it is. Yeah, yeah. There are moments. I mean, I always think of in Weevil the any moment with Mama Puss is
Well, yeah, and
very books of blood.
the section in Cabal where Boone and Laurie go to Baphomet inside Midian.
Yes.
I was reading that and I was thinking, this will become the section. What is it? What's it called? The axis or something
Mhm.
in Imagica.
Oh,
The sort of the pivot upon which the Imagica turns.
yes, something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that's the seed of what will turn into
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah. Brilliant. So before we go, is there anything you'd like to chuck out?
okay, yeah. On Blue Sky at Times Carcass. Links to everything I do on there, including my Patreon. You can get advance access to everything I do if I do it in time to give you advance access for only $1 a month, including podcasts that are not publicly released, including bonus episodes of the main project I do, which is the podcast I Don't Speak German with Daniel Harper, which is about the far right, which, as I say, is just increasingly about
Yeah.
mainstream politics.
Lots of material
And
to be working with there.
yeah, I have a YouTube channel where I make audio books. I've got some in the works. I've got some Arthur Machen that I've recorded. That's in the works. That'll be coming. And as I say, Patreon subscribers will get advance access to those before they go up at YouTube. And when I write, which I do sometimes, and a lot of my back catalogue of writing is on Eruditorium Press under my tag, Jack Graham.
Superb. Links below, by the way, guys. As for me, you can find me here on Exaggerated Elegy, where there are loads of discussions like this and more incoming, and lots of video game Let's Plays as well, because I allow myself to play a video game an hour a night and just put it up on YouTube. You can find links to all of my published work over at strangeplaygrounds.com and the Evil Empire of Amazon. If you type in my name, George Daniel Lee, you'll find my Amazon author page, because we all have to have one of those now. If you want to function at all in that space, you have to
Yeah.
have one. My non-fiction is over at Ginger Nuts of Horror, largely. The series My Life in Horror. There's a couple of essays to go up there, actually, very, very soon. And I think for now, that's it for me. You can also get me at Blue Sky on Exaggerated Elegy or George Daniel Lee if you fancy coming and having a chat. Jack, that was great. That was brilliant.
Good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, really good fun. I mean, always up to talk about this one. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.